What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Primetime Sports Podcast, hosted by Joey Malari. So this is my first time in the studio on a Tuesday night from 7 to 8. This is my segment every single week, weekly segment, 7 to 8 p.m. on WZBC AM Sports Radio. I'll talk a bunch of sports. Over the summer, I had this podcast. I talked everything from the NBA free agency to the MLB, the trade deadline of the MLB, all the way to the NHL draft, the NBA draft, NFL free agency, what was going on there. Preview the NFL season with my buddy, the sports guru Mike Hurley, on it. Talked everything in college sports, from college hockey to college football. Talk everything on it, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it. As I said, it'll be every single Tuesday night from 7 to 8 o'clock. Then on Wednesday nights, me and my co-host, Zach Cruz, will have my show 8 to 9 p.m., our show, The Playbook with Joey and Zach. So my show will be Tuesday nights, 7 to 8 for the Primetime Sports Podcast, and then Wednesday nights, 8 to 9 p.m. on WZBC AM Sports Radio for the Playbook with Joey and Zach. So hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll be back on again tomorrow night from 8 to 9. So to start off tonight, I'm going to talk about the Celtics. They have the season opener tonight against the 76ers. Shout out E, big Sixers fan, so we're going to preview that game. Also, the Lakers will be heading to Golden State tonight to play the Warriors. So the Warriors have their ring ceremony tonight, their season opener as well. So it's the NBA opening night is tonight, Celtics-Sixers, and then Lakers and Warriors. I'll give some predictions for the NBA season. I think I'm going to do a little bit more of that tomorrow maybe, since I didn't get to prepare enough for that. I was really preparing a lot for the MLB playoffs, so I'll talk a lot about that. The Phillies-Padres start tonight in the NLCS. I'll preview that as well. I'll talk about the Yankees and Guardians game. Game 5 was today. I'll talk about that game and what happened there. I'll give some background on the Phillies and the Padres when both of them were last in the NLCS. And then I'll also talk about the Patriots. They could have a quarterback controversy. Mac Jones versus Bailey Zappe. Who would have ever known to be sitting here going into Week 7 with a quarterback controversy between Mac Jones and Bailey Zappe? So that'll be very interesting, obviously, to talk about. Hopefully we'll have some people call in. As always, just shoot me a text at 617-596-3150. If you'd like to call in, give me a text. Let me know you want to call in. I'll have you come on. We'll talk some sports, as always, about anything. We can talk about the Bruins as well, which I know the sports guru Mike Hurley, big Bruins guy. Maybe we'll get him on at some point tonight, talk some Bruins. The Bruins are playing very well as of late, too. We'll see. We can go anywhere with this. Also, Northeastern Hockey will be hosting BC Hockey tonight at 7 o'clock. Big game there. Big Hockey East showdown on Tuesday night at Matthews Arena. So I'll talk about that game as well. Maybe even give you guys some live updates of what's going on there. As I said about Mac Jones versus Bailey Zappe, that's a big quarterback controversy. Today I watched 98.5 The Sports Hub with Greg Bedard, Tuesdays with Greg Bedard, the best segment in all of sports radio. He was on today talking about Bailey Zappe versus Mac Jones, but he's staying with Mac Jones. I think Bailey Zappe is not a starting quarterback, doesn't think he has the caliber of being a starting quarterback, doesn't have the ability. So we'll see, obviously. He's played well in the 2 games he started in. Obviously came in 3 weeks ago now against that Green Bay Packers team that the Giants beat, the Jets just beat. So the Packers, honestly, are a very beatable team. And Bailey Zappe played there at Lambeau, not knowing he's going to get a shot, being the backup, and he ends up getting a chance, obviously, playing well in that game. So we'll see what happens there between Mac Jones and Bailey Zappe. The Patriots do play Monday Night Football this upcoming week in Chicago, so we'll see what happens there. I think it is in Chicago. Let me make sure here. I'll make sure it's in Chicago just to be 100% positive. No, it's home. The Patriots are home at Gillette Stadium versus the Chicago Bears, 8:15 Monday Night Football. So we'll see what happens there. Anyways, I'm going to start off with the Celtics. As always, if anyone wants to call in, as I said, just text me at 617-596-3150. Already got text from the sports legend, Mark Walsh, calling in at some point tonight. He just said he'll be available to call in. So hopefully I'll have him come on, maybe talk some Celtics, Sixers, maybe talk some Bruins as well, too. He calls in, he talks everything just like the sports guru Mike Hurley does. It's open for everyone tonight. 7 to 8, I'll be on here with a lot to talk about. As I said, I didn't really get to do enough background on my NBA season predictions. I'm going to do that tomorrow at some point. I wanted to do that tonight, but just didn't get to. We had an intramural softball game tonight. I actually had to miss half of my sports business class to go to the intramural softball game. Ended up losing a tough game. I forget what the final score was. Might have been like 15-10. Tough game tonight. Honestly, we didn't play bad, though. We only had 9 guys. The other team had 10. The other team could hit a ton as well. We didn't even have that many errors. It was just, they outplayed us and just could hit well. We didn't play that bad. We actually had a good game. And considering all the ailments we had some kids with some injuries, shoulder injuries, a concussion. We still played well, gave it our all out there. And obviously, some guys had to miss the big Yankees Game 5 game versus the Guardians. So, tough game tonight in intramural softball. We do have an intramural flag football game tonight. Big playoff game there. We had the 3 seed in that. We were 4-0 in the regular season with a couple blowout wins, a couple close wins as well. But anyways, I'll get into the Celtics now. I know I went on a little sidetrack there. So I'll start off with the Celtics. Celtics season openers tonight, 7:30 p.m. tonight at the TD Garden versus the Philadelphia 76ers. As for injuries, I'm going to preview with that. The Celtics did have some injuries, obviously, in the offseason. Danilo Gallinari, power forward, the Celtics signed in the offseason, is out with a torn ACL. Not sure about the time frame there, but probably out the whole season. Then center Robert Williams will be out the first few months of the season with a left knee procedure. Tough to lose both of those guys. Obviously, Rob Williams, I think, is the biggest X factor on this Celtics team. And when you have a big X factor like Robert Williams, you could get 10, 5, and 5 every night. You get 5 blocks, that is. He's going to give you 10 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 blocks a night at least in limited minutes. When he plays a full game, he can give you 15, 12, and 4 or 5 blocks. He can give you anything, give you steals as well. So Robert Williams is the biggest X factor on this Celtics team. Obviously, without him, it is a loss. And hopefully he gets back in that Celtics lineup soon. As for the 76ers, from online reports I was looking at online, they don't really have any injuries online. So we'll see what happens there. As for Robert Williams, he will be out probably about 2 to 3 months, maybe half the season, at least the first half of the season. So we'll see what happens there. The Celtics head coach will be Joe Mazzulla, who was an assistant coach of the Celtics since 2019 on the Brad Stevens staff. When the Celtics had Brad Stevens end up becoming the president of basketball operations, Brad Stevens went up higher up into the executive office, and then obviously the Celtics got Ime Udoka from the assistant coaching staff for the Brooklyn Nets. Udoka obviously had issues in the offseason, during the season last year. Now he's getting suspended in the offseason. He's suspended for the year due to violating team policies, as you guys may know. I think that's honestly it for Ime Udoka. I think at the end of the day, when you look at it, people talked about the Alex Cora suspension. That's very different. Alex Cora suspended by the MLB because of what he was doing in Houston with the Astros and the sign-stealing scandal. As for Ime Udoka, he was suspended by the Celtics, so by the Celtics team. I don't think he's going to come back and end up becoming the Celtics head coach again next season after the 1-year suspension is up. I think he is done with the Boston Celtics, and I think Joe Mazzulla, as of now, I know he's the interim head coach right now. He might be the head coach for years to come, depending on how he does this year. Obviously, he was an assistant coach of the Celtics with Brad Stevens for a couple of years, and then 1 year with Ime Udoka. So he knows the Celtics system, knows the lineup, obviously knows the guys off the bench, obviously has a good feel for the game, what the Celtics want to do. Obviously trying to win NBA Finals. I'm sure he's looking forward to being the head coach for them this season. As for the Celtics lineup, projected starting lineup is Marcus Smart starting at point guard, Derek White at the shooting guard position. Obviously, Derek White could come off the bench. Malcolm Brogdon, who the Celtics got in the offseason, honestly could have been starting at that shooting guard position. He's really a combo guard at 1-2. He can play point guard and shooting guard. It's really a combo, a mix between the two of them. Small forward will be Jaylen Brown, power forward Jason Tatum, and then center will be Al Horford with Malcolm Brogdon as the sixth man. As for the 76ers, it'll be Tyrese Maxey starting at point guard. He had a very good year last year for them at the point guard position. Former Kentucky Wildcat. I was a big fan of him coming out of the draft. I honestly wanted the Celtics to get him. Obviously, it didn't work out trying to get him, but he's playing great with the 76ers, so respect there for him. Shooting guard will be James Harden. Obviously, Harden signed a 2-year deal in the offseason for less money to stay in Philadelphia. Obviously, wanted to keep money for them to sign other guys in the offseason. That obviously helped with them getting their starting small forward, or power forward, that is. Small forward will be Tobias Harris. Their starting power forward they got in the offseason is PJ Tucker. They signed in a 3-year deal, got him out of Miami and signed him to the 76ers. So that was obviously money that they had in getting Tucker, was the money that Harden gave up, obviously. And Harden obviously said, I want to win. And that money they saved and obviously get PJ Tucker in the offseason. The center is obviously a superstar in Joel Embiid. Could be the MVP this year. If I did my predictions right now, honestly, Joel Embiid's in there. Probably top 2. He honestly could have won it each of the last couple seasons now. Last season, he obviously could have. And then a couple years ago had some injuries. But I think at the end of the day, Joel Embiid, whenever he's healthy, is one of the best players in the NBA. A top 3 player in the NBA every single year when healthy. Then sixth man, Matisse Thybulle off the bench. So the Celtics and the Sixers did split the season series last year 2-2. The Sixers swept the Celtics in the 2020-2021 NBA season, but last season 2-2 split in the 2021-2022 NBA season. Much different teams now, so we'll see what happens there. As for prediction tonight, I think it's going to be a very close game. Let me see what the line is in Vegas. I don't really gamble at all, but I always check to see who's favored. I'm sure the Celtics are. Celtics are favored by 3 points. I think it'll be a very close game. As of now, I think it's going to be a 1 to 2 point game. I'll give the Celtics an edge. Celtics by 2. We'll see what happens there. As for the Yankees game, Game 5 versus the Cleveland Guardians, I'm going to give you guys a breakdown of that game before I preview tonight's Lakers and Golden State Warriors game, opening night, ring ceremony for that Warriors team. The Yankees are up right now, 5-1 in the top of the 9th inning. The Yankees have Wandy Peralta on the mound to close out this game. Very big chance for this Yankees team to close out this game and go to the ALCS to face the Houston Astros. Garrett Cole is warming up in the bullpen as well. I want to keep you guys updated on that. Up at the plate right now is no other than Josh Naylor, the Cleveland Guardians designated hitter, who is struggling now in the postseason, hitting just 200 with just 1 home run and 3 RBIs. But the regular season at 256 with 20 home runs and 79 RBIs. The Yankees are up right now 5-1, top of the ninth. Nobody out, nobody on base. For the Yankees, they honestly had a lot of power in the first few innings. Giancarlo Stanton had a 2-run home run, a 3-run home run off Aaron Civale in the first inning. Aaron Civale, former Northeastern Husky, 2016 third-round pick to the Cleveland Guardians. I was a big fan of Civale at Northeastern. I broke it down today on my podcast, which this radio show is my podcast. It's kind of just a 2-in-1. Whenever I can record an episode on my own, upload to Spotify. When I'm not in the studio, I'm going to do that. And then, obviously, Tuesday nights, I'll be in the studio here 7, 8 o'clock. I talked about that game today and previewed it. I actually had the Yankees losing a 5-4 ball game. I thought it'd be closer than this. I thought Civale would go maybe 5 to 6 innings, since in his last 10 games, he pitched very well. His last 4 games of the season was his only really healthy stretch of the season. But his last 10 games of the season, he was 3-1. His last 10 starts in 51 innings, giving up, he only had 3 ERAs, so he got too many runs. A 3 ERA in 51 innings pitched in his last 10 games, with a 198 opponent batting average, a .86 whip, and 7.57 strikeouts per walk, with a 3-1 win-loss record. In his first 10 games of the season, though, a 2-5 record in 46 innings pitched, with a 7.04 ERA, a 3.01 opponent batting average, a 1.54 whip, which whip stands for walks and hits allowed per inning pitched, and 3 strikeouts per walk. Civale did not have it today, though, for that Guardians team. That was actually his postseason debut. Only could get 1 out in the 3rd innings pitched, giving up 2 hits, 3 earned runs, a walk, had a strikeout, and then obviously gave that 3-run home run to Giancarlo Stanton. I did talk about today. Giancarlo Stanton was hitting, I believe, let me make sure here, but he was hitting very low. I think it was like 0.86 or something in the postseason before that game today. Let me make sure. I want to make sure I'm 100% on this. Stanton was hitting just .083 in the postseason with 1 home run and 3 RBIs and a .533 OPS heading into today. Obviously came up big when it mattered most in today's game, hitting that 3-run home run for that Yankees team in the first inning. The Yankees obviously got a home run as well out of Aaron Judge. That was in the 2nd inning off a reliever. And then that was a solo shot. So the Yankees ended up being up 4-0 after the first 2 innings. The Guardians did respond with a run in the 3rd inning on a sacrifice fly to center field. Harrison Bader in center field made that play off the bat of Jose Ramirez. Austin Hedges scored. That was really all they got going on offense for that Guardians team. They were held to just 6 hits, 2 of those coming from Stephen Kwan, their leadoff hitter, hitting .300 in the postseason. Right now, it is a guy on first base off a single from Gabriel Arias, singled to shortstop Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. It was deflected by second baseman Gleyber Torres, so an infield single there for Gabriel Arias. So they have a guy on first base with 1 out. Wandy Peralta up, still pitching to Andre Jimenez. So the Guardians still have life. 1 out, guy on first base in the top of the 9th inning. As for what the Yankees did on offense besides those 2 guys, so Judge was 2 for 4 with an RBI, obviously being a home run with 2 strikeouts. He struck out in his first at-bat in the first inning. That was actually the only out recorded by Aaron Civale. As for Anthony Rizzo, he's 1 for 3 with an RBI. Stanton's 1 for 4 with that 3-run home run. And then besides that, not really much offense. The Yankees only have 6 hits as well. They've struck out 12 times. The Guardians only struck out 6. So that Guardians pitching staff did strike out a lot of guys. As for the Guardians at the end of this game, Clase, their closer, came in the game. Emmanuel Clase, a reliever all-star this year for that Guardians team, came in for 1 1/3 innings pitch, striking out 2 guys and only walking 1. That bullpen pitched very well for that Cleveland Guardians bullpen. Pitched very well in this offseason. If you look at their ERAs of the 4 guys that came in relief today, 2.84 ERA, 1.59 ERA, a 0 ERA, and a 0 ERA. So that bullpen kept him in this game, obviously being down 5-1, a tough start to the game for Civale. I thought he was going to go maybe 5 to 6 innings today, giving up a couple runs. I think my prediction was 2 to 3 runs given up with 5 strikeouts, a walk, and maybe going 5 or 6 innings. Obviously, that wasn't the deal today for that team. Unfortunately, I was rooting for him to do well. Anyways, I'll keep you guys updated on what happens there. I'm going to now talk about the Lakers and the Warriors tonight, that season opener. And I also want to preview that Northeastern BC hockey game, which actually just dropped the puck in that game. Northeastern coming off a loss on Friday night to the Providence Friars at home. Tough game for Northeastern, losing that game. But one good thing for Northeastern is they got some scoring opportunities, lost the game 2-1. If you look at what they did in that game, though, they did get 13 shots on goal in the third period, but they were dominated on shots on goal overall. 51 shots on goal for that Providence Friars team compared to Northeastern's just 31 shots on goal. Northeastern won 32 faceoffs out of 60 faceoff opportunities, and Northeastern had 19 shots blocked, 213 for Providence. Providence only had 13 shots blocked. As for Providence, they were up right away, 2-1. They had a goal from Riley Duran, and then a goal from Patrick Moynihan and a power play goal. Northeastern responded with a Gunnar Wolf, Gunnar Wagon, Fontaine power play goal in the second period, an assist to Aidan McDonough and Sam Colangelo, and then Northeastern didn't really get anything going after that. So a tough game for that Northeastern hockey team. As for tonight, they get a chance to go up against BC and maybe redeem themselves against a good Northeastern team, obviously a good BC team. It's a good team, obviously, to go up against on Tuesday night. BC coming off a win this weekend at UNH, which I'm going to break down that game as well, tell you guys what happened there. BC won this weekend. In that game, 4-2 against UNH, had 2 goals from Colby Ambrosio, a goal from Liam Isaac, and then a goal from Mitch Andres. As for who assisted those guys, Trevor Kunta had an assist on that Andres goal, and then Isaac was assisted by Andres, and then Colby Ambrosio had a goal with an assist from Nikita Nesterenko in that third period. As for BC's goalie, he played very well, which I was going to say pitch because I'm thinking so much about baseball here. Mitch Benson, transfer goalie from Colgate, played very well in net for that BC team, stopping 28 out of 29 out of 31 shots opportunities. Obviously, BC played very well in the first 2 periods, outshooting that UNH team 24-20. Then in that third period, UNH beat BC in shots 11-6, but BC ended up staying strong. Did give up a goal in the third period. Kyle Erickson, which, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, Kelly Erickson of that UNH team made a 3-2 game, and then Colby Ambrosio scored with about a minute to go to make it a 4-2 game, and BC ended up winning that. So, big win for BC. Obviously, in that game, BC playing Northeastern tonight. As for Northeastern, BC killed a power play Northeastern had, and then they drew a penalty of their own against Northeastern. Northeastern ended up killing that penalty and really couldn't get much going. Besides that, Colangelo did have Northeastern's first shot on goal. After that, during that power play, or the penalty kill, that is. And then, as for some other things to look out for, Holy Cross is playing AIC tonight in hockey. AIC right now is down 1-0 already. Liam McClinsky for that Holy Cross team put AIC down 1-0. Holy Cross already up 1-0. As for AIC, though, they played very well this weekend, which you guys know I'm a big AIC hockey fan. They went up against Niagara this weekend, beating them 5-2 on Saturday night. So big win for that AIC team. They beat them on Friday night 6-3. So 5-2 and 6-3. That's 11-5. They beat that Niagara team this weekend in that second game, getting 2 goals from the great Blake Bennett. He had a power play goal in the third period, and then an unassisted goal with about a minute to go in that last period as well. So big win for that AIC hockey team. They're playing tonight. AIC, obviously you guys know, have made the tournament each of the last 3 years. They have won the Atlantic Hockey Division 4 straight years in the regular season, have won the tournament 3 straight years. They are 2-1-2 on the year with a 2-0 record in the Atlantic Hockey Conference. Tonight's another opportunity for them to build on that Atlantic Hockey Conference record. Holy Cross 0-4 on the year, AIC 2-1-2. So we'll see what happens there. I know I'm going all over the place here. Too much is going on in sports. The Yankees end up winning this game with Wandy Peralta on the mound. Garrett Cole did not have to come into the game. Yankees end up winning this game 5-1 against that Guardians team. Now game 1 of that ALCS game will be tomorrow, actually. Very interesting. A quick turnoff for the Yankees team. The Houston Astros will be pitching Justin Verlander, who has not had a great postseason. Justin Verlander has not pitched well in the postseason. We'll see who pitches for that Yankees team. There's no word on who's going to be on the mound for them, but in that first game against the Mariners in the postseason, in the, I believe it was the American League Divisional Round versus the Mariners, 4 innings pitched for Justin Verlander, only going 4 innings, giving up 6 runs, a home run, striking out 3 with a walk, and giving up 10 hits in 4 innings pitched. So he's a 13.5 ERA on the year. He will be on the mound for that Houston team tomorrow at 7:37 p.m. At 4:35 p.m. tomorrow will be the Phillies and Padres, second game of the NLCS, which now I want to preview that game. I'm going all over the place. I really didn't have an agenda here. I was really just going off the top of the head here, which at the end of the day, so much is going on in sports. I can really talk about anything. I got college hockey out of the way already. I obviously talked the Celtics. Gave some predictions there. The Celtics winning by 2 tonight in a close game. I still will preview tonight's Lakers-Warriors game. But now I'm going to move on quickly to that Padres-Phillies series, which is starting tonight. So the Padres were the 5 seed out of 7 in the NL. The Phillies were the 6th out of 7 in the NL. But if you look at it, both of those teams made a run in the postseason, obviously being very low seeds, or 6 out of 6 it was, excuse me. I was wrong. I was thinking there was 7 because that's what the NFL is now. The Padres were the 5th seed out of 7, or 6, excuse me, in the NL, and then the Phillies were the 6th seed out of 6 in the NL. I was wrong there. I'm thinking so much about the NFL, which I'm going to talk about that as well. I'm really just talking everything here. Both were the wild card bids, the lowest 2 wild card seeds in the NL. Both have made a run. The Phillies beat the reigning World Series champs, the Atlanta Braves, 3-1 in the NLDS. And then they also beat the St. Louis Cardinals, who had a great season. St. Louis Cardinals, 93-69 team on the year, beat them in the wild card series 2-0. As for the Padres, they beat the 111-win Dodgers team. The Dodgers had 111 wins on the year in 5 games in the NLDS, and then obviously beat the New York Mets, who had another great year as well, with 101 wins and 61 losses. They beat that New York Mets team in 3 games in the wild card series. So both teams have earned a spot to play tonight in the NLCS. Tonight is Game 1 at 8:03 p.m. in San Diego. The regular season, the Phillies did win the series 4-3 with 21 runs scored to 15 runs allowed. So just the reverse of the Padres' 3-4 record with 15 runs scored and 21 runs allowed. The Phillies were 3-1 in San Diego at Petco Park on the season. They will play tonight at Petco Park. The last time they played was in June for a 3-game set in San Diego. The Phillies lost Game 1 of that series 1-0, but then ended up winning Game 2 4-2 and then won Game 3 8-5. On the mound for each team tonight is Yu Darvish for the San Diego Padres and Zach Wheeler for the Philadelphia Phillies. Wheeler, 12-7 record in the regular season with a 2.82 ERA and 163 strikeouts in 153 innings pitched with a 1.04 whip. He has an 0-1 record in 2 postseason starts this year with a 2.19 ERA and 9 strikeouts in 12 1/3 innings pitched. He did stone the Cardinals in the wild card round, 6 1/3 innings pitched with 2 hits allowed, 0 runs, and 4 strikeouts to 1 walk. As for the Padres, in the regular season, he faced them in just 1 start on May 18th, going 7 innings, allowing 4 hits, no runs, and had 9 strikeouts to no walks. As for Yu Darvish, had a 16-8 record on the year with a 3.1 ERA, 197 strikeouts, and 194 2/3 innings pitched with a .95 whip. He was 2-0 in 2 postseason starts this year, heading into this game tonight with a 3 ERA, a flat 3 that is, and 11 strikeouts in 12 innings pitched. His last outing was versus the Dodgers, 5 innings pitched with 7 hits allowed and 3 home runs allowed. All 3 earned runs he had, all of them being home runs in that game, all solo home runs with 7 strikeouts and 2 walks. Versus the Phillies in the regular season, Darvish faced them 2 times. May 19th, San Diego won that game 2-0. Darvish actually picked up the win in that game, going 7 innings, giving up no runs with 5 strikeouts and 6 hits allowed. As of June 26th, that was the second start versus the Phillies. San Diego lost that game 8-5. Tough game for that San Diego Padres team. He did go 6 innings in that game with 7 hits allowed, 3 earned runs, and 9 strikeouts to 1 walk. So we'll see what happens in tonight's game. As for the Phillies, guys to watch out for, the Phillies leaders, they have a ton of great players, as do the Padres. Both teams you could talk all day about. 2021 National League MVP Bryce Harper has been on a tear for them in the postseason for the Philadelphia Phillies team. 3 home runs, 6 RBIs, 10 hits, and 23 at-bats to go along with 3 doubles and a .435 batting average and a .957 slugging percentage in the postseason and a .1437 OPS. He's been on a tear for them. He's one guy to keep your eye on. He's probably been the best player in the postseason in all of the major leagues. Brandon Marsh, another guy to keep your eye on for that Phillies team. He was acquired at the trade deadline by the Philadelphia Phillies from the LA Angels. They made a trade with them right at the deadline. He's been great in the playoffs for them too, hitting .308 for batting average with a .400 on base percentage, a .1092 slugging percentage, a home run, and 4 RBIs. Brad Hand has been great for them in relief in 3 appearances with a 1-0 record, 2 hits allowed, and 0 runs allowed in 2 2/3 innings pitched with 3 strikeouts and no walks. David Robertson, who is off of the NLDS roster for that Phillies team, he's out with a calf injury after celebrating their wild card celebration after they beat the Cardinals. He was hurt his calf during that celebration. He was off the National League Divisional Series roster, but now he will be back on their NLCS roster for tonight. Huge ad for their bullpen. They acquired him at the trade deadline from the Chicago Cubs. As for the Padres, who to look out for, center fielder Trent Grisham has been their best player in the postseason for them at the plate, hitting .381 with a 13.29 OPS, 3 home runs, 5 RBIs in 7 games played. Star outfielder Juan Soto is another guy to keep your eye on. I'm sure all you guys know the name. Hitting .250 in the postseason with no home runs, 3 RBIs, and a .586 OPS. He's been struggling. .586 OPS, no home runs, 3 RBIs, and a .250 batting average. Soto's typically a lot better than that. I expect him to get hot tonight. The Padres GM, AJ Preller, did trade a haul for him, a haul of prospects, that is, and some major league talent to land him at the deadline. Obviously, with the Padres going all in, they thought they would have their star shortstop and outfielder Fernando Tatis. Ended up being suspended by the major leagues due to PEDs, and now ends up missing all of the postseason this year, and then ends up missing regular season games next year, and also missed the remainder of regular season games this year as well. So tough loss there for them. Obviously, they'd be a lot better of a team with them, but they made the NLCS without him, and they can get just as hot without him, obviously. Third baseman Manny Machado hitting .296 in the postseason with a .980 OPS, 2 home runs, and 5 RBIs. He's another guy to keep your eye on. That lineup is very scary, as is the Phillies lineup. Nick Castellanos did get hot in a couple games for them in the postseason. Brandon Marsh, Kyle Schwarber, another guy to keep your eye on. Had a great regular season for that Phillies team. If you look at what he did in the regular season, 46 home runs, hit just .218 in the regular season, but had 200 strikeouts. That's another thing, he does strike out a lot, but did add 94 RBIs, 86 walks, 46 strikeouts, 46 home runs, that is, with 200 strikeouts, a ton of strikeouts, and 100 runs scored. As for another guy to keep your eye on, Nick Castellanos, who hit a ton for the Cincinnati Reds over the years, had a good year this year for the Phillies. Offensively at the plate, hitting .263. Did not hit as many home runs as he typically does, only 13 home runs, but did hit 62 RBIs and had 56 runs scored. Was not as good of a season as he should have had, but still a decent year, and if he can get hot for them in the postseason, that's all they're probably asking for, really. He did have a big game for them against the Braves on October 14th. He was 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs, and had a big game for them, obviously, in that game. So hopefully he gets hot for them. As the Padres, I know got a little sidetracked there. Manny Machado hitting .296 in the postseason. And then reliever Josh Hader, who the Padres acquired at the trade deadline from Milwaukee, has been shut out and turned back in time for that Padres team to his dominant days from just a year ago now. In 4 postseason appearances for the Padres this year, he has 3 saves and 3 save opportunities with only 1 hit, no runs allowed in 4 1/3 innings pitched, with 7 strikeouts to 1 walk. So he's been locked down for that for that Padres team, and I expect him to be playing great for them as well tonight in that NLCS game, Game 1. As a background of this matchup, this is the Phillies' first time in the NLCS since 2010, the Padres' first time in the NLCS since 1998. The Phillies fired their manager, Joe Girardi, during the season, and then they ended up going on a tear. They went on a run after that with interim manager Rob Thompson in charge at the helm. They went 65-46, 65 wins, 46 losses, with a .586 win percentage after Girardi was fired. The last 3 times a Philadelphia baseball team has won the World Series, and this is a random fact. The last 3 times a Philadelphia baseball team has won the World Series, there was a financial crisis right around that time, according to Morning Stew on Twitter. 1929, the Philadelphia Athletics won the World Series. Obviously ended up with a financial crisis around then. The Great Depression. 1980, there was another financial crisis. The Phillies won the World Series in that year, and then the Phillies won in 2008, right around the 08-09 recession. So obviously this year could be another Phillies World Series win. That means keep your eye out on another recession. Hopefully we don't have that, but obviously that was a random trend. I saw that today online. Hopefully the Phillies end up winning the World Series this year. They're my pick. They're my pick to win the World Series this year. I'm rooting for them, but hopefully keep the financial crisis out of it. As for my predictions for the series, I have the Phillies winning in 6 games. Phillies in 6 games, and then for the Astros and the Yankees series, that's tough. That's tough for me to go to pick. Obviously, both teams very good. Both of them the 2 highest seeds in the American League. I'm going to break down how they did against each other in the regular season. Just give me 1 second here. As for who I think is going to win that series, I am going to go Houston Astros in 7 games. That is my prediction. Astros in 7. I was going to go 6, but I think this is going to go 7 games. Astros in 6 games. As for how the Yankees fared against the Astros regular season, the Yankees are 2-5 against the Astros in the regular season, giving up 27 runs and scoring just 22. So the Yankees had a -5 run differential with a .286 win percentage and a 2-5 record in the regular season versus that Astros team. But if you look at what the Yankees did in the regular season versus the Guardians team, they were 5-1 with 38 runs scored and 14 runs allowed. So maybe what they did against the regular season teams, against the Guardians, they did great against. Maybe what they did against the Guardians in the regular season illustrated what they're going to do in the postseason with them winning in 5 games. As for what they did against the Astros in the regular season, hopefully it's different for the Yankees team being 2-5. As for the Astros, flip it. They were 5-2 against the Yankees in the regular season with 27 runs scored to 22 runs allowed. We'll see what happens, obviously, there with a 7-14 win percentage for that Houston Astros team. I think the Astros end up winning this series in 7 games. I think their pitching is great, and obviously they had more time off to rest their bullpen, with the Yankees having to go right to Houston tonight after tonight's game to play Game 1 tomorrow night. I think that's too quick of a turnaround for that Yankees team. So I got the Houston Astros in 7 games. I got the Philadelphia Phillies in 6 games. And then we'll see what happens in the postseason, in the World Series. We'll see what my predictions are there. As for Northeastern, quick update in that game. Goal from Aiden McDonough, a one-timer from the spot off the post, off Mitch Benson and into the pipes for Northeastern goal. 1-0 on the power play for Northeastern. They lead this game already. Big game for Northeastern, as I said. As you guys know, I'm a big Northeastern Huskies fan. Tonight's a big game for them. They're up 1-0 already with 4 minutes to go in the first period. A goal from Aiden McDonough with an assist from Gunnar Wolf-Fontaine and an assist from Sam Colangelo. So they get a lot of goal-scoring opportunities, obviously, especially considering they turned it up in that third period against that Providence Friars team. And obviously tonight, being up 1-0 is good for that Northeastern team. As for shots on goal, Northeastern has 9 shots on goal to BC's 10 in the first period with 4 minutes to go. Northeastern has won 7 faceoffs out of 15, so it's a good stat there for BC, winning 8 out of 15. Northeastern wins a lot of faceoffs typically, so being up 8-7 in faceoffs won is very impressive. So we'll see what happens in that Northeastern game. I'll keep you guys posted about that. We're going to see who I can get to call in here. Maybe get Mark Walsh, maybe get my uncle here. We'll see what happens to talk some Patriots. There's a lot to talk about there. I can preview tonight's Golden State Warriors LA Lakers game. Keep you guys posted about that. I'll keep you guys up to date with that Northeastern game as well. So as for tonight is the ring ceremony for the Golden State Warriors after winning the NBA Finals in 2022. The Los Angeles Lakers will be heading to Golden State to play tonight. The Warriors ring ceremony, as I said, will be tonight before the game at the Chase Center. Tip-off is at 10 o'clock. Draymond Green, who fought with Jordan Poole during a Warriors practice 2 weeks ago now, I'm not sure if he's going to play in tonight's game. He took a leave of absence from the team, so I'm not sure if he will be suiting up for them. Head coach Steve Kerr said he does not think the Golden State Warriors' big three of Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green will be ready to play 30-plus minutes yet, so we'll see what happens there. A lot is in question for this Lakers team, though. Under Darvin Ham, first-year head coach for them, they obviously fired Frank Vogel in the offseason, and obviously Russell Westbrook, that's another big storyline for them, who could potentially come off the bench for them, which he did in the last preseason game for them. Would be the first time in his 14-year career, now this is year 15 for him, that he's come off the bench. He started all 78 games for that Lakers team last year, playing very well for them. 18.5 points. Obviously, shooting-wise, everyone's going to be critical of. But what I want to say is he finished the season very well, played very well for them in his last 10 games played. Overall in the year, 18.5 points per game, 7.4 rebounds per game to go along with 7.1 assists. In 10 games, at the end of that Lakers season last year, Russ played very well and did not get any recognition for it. He played very well. I mentioned it over the summer on my podcast. In his last 10 games played, shot 52.1% from the floor with a 41.5% shooting percentage from 3 to go along with 22.2 points per game, 7.4 rebounds per game, 7.1 assists per game, and had 20-plus points in each of the 8 of the last 10 games at the end of last season. The Lakers were 2-8 over that stretch, and it was not Russell Westbrook's fault by any means, in my opinion. So we'll see what happens there. I think Russell Westbrook has a better year this year. Anyways, so that's my preview of the Celtics-Sixers game, the Lakers and Warriors game. I gave you guys some updates about that BC hockey and Northeastern hockey game at Matthews Arena. Kept you guys updated about that AIC-Holy Cross game. Obviously broke down what happened in that ALCS game today for the Yankees versus the Guardians. And then obviously talked about the Phillies, Padres, NLCS matchup. So now I'm going to have my uncle come on and then hopefully maybe get Mark Walsh on after that. And we'll see what happens. Let me shoot them a text really quick. So I'm going to get my uncle on first and then going to go on and get the legend Mark Walsh. So we'll see what they got to say about these respective topics. Whatever they want to talk about, as I always say, it's very open to talk anything. Anything sports that you guys want to talk. very wide open. Just come on, talk anything. It's kind of what I do here. I did have an agenda to a degree, but I did just spitball a lot of stuff, and I'm sorry for the rambling. I just try to get a lot in that 35-minute window since I started. So going to get my uncle on first to talk anything, and then we'll see where we go from there. Hope you guys enjoy it. What's going on, Uncle Frankie? How we doing? There we go. It just canceled on me. Hold on. We'll try to get him back. 1 second. That's what happens sometimes, some technical difficulties. There is a way to call into the studio, but, we had some problems last year trying to do it since it shows up live on air for you guys that are listening online on WZBC AM Sports Radio. But there's no way for us to hear it in the studio. We can hear it through the phone, but there's no way for it to pick up on our voice memos for it to be live, to go onto Spotify and all that. So we'll see what happens, obviously. Hopefully I can try to figure out a way to get the phone in the studio to work. But as of now, I just do FaceTime audio. So we'll see if we can get him now to call in. Sometimes you just have no luck with it. It's technical difficulties. That's just what happens sometimes when you're in the studio. So I'm going to try my best here to get him on. Give me 1 second here. Maybe I'll see if I can get Mark Walsh. Not sending for him for some reason, so see if I can get Mark Walsh here. All right, works with Mark Walsh. All right, we're going with Mark Walsh. Get him on first. All right, hey, here we are with my uncle, Uncle Frankie. Thank you so much for coming on. I apologize, everyone, for the technical difficulties. We were really struggling here to get ends to meet, but here we are. We are live on air.
It's all good.
How are we doing, Uncle Frankie? What's going on?
I'm doing great. The Bruins are having a tough start.
I saw that. 3-0?
Yeah, well, they called off the goal because it was a goalie interference. Guy was on the crease. It's only 2-0.
All right, we'll take it.
It's funny. I had so many thoughts. Tonight I'm thinking about Celtics and Bruins because the Celtics are starting tonight. And, it seems to me that they just have to sort of find their identity until they get Time Lord back. They're going nowhere long term. Without him, but he's got to be perfect. Last year he was hurt. They had to try to get him in. But
they do need him. They need him healthy. I think he's the biggest X factor for this Celtics team. I think we've talked about it in the past. When Robert Williams is healthy, the Celtics are just a different team. They're a different team without him.
And you don't see anybody drive in the lane. Even LeBron will go in and he'll turn around and kick the ball out. He's not physically intimidated, but he's not going to be able to shoot over him.
You're right. You're right.
He's the biggest game changer defensively. I think you could argue Mark is
smart
is great, but I don't know. I think Time Lord changes the team much more than that.
I agree with you. Hopefully we get him back healthy. I think it's a couple months, right? 2 to 3 months.
At least. Well,
off.
If you have a cartilage injury, it can be 2 months to heal. But he had some kind of re-injury, so I'm concerned. So you never hear the whole story, and the orthopedists never tell you that he screwed up by sending him back too early.
That's what happens.
He was running around 2 weeks after the surgery. I did some orthopedic surgery rotations. I did pediatrics in a former life for those of you on the radio.
He's a doctor. Yeah, he knows his stuff.
Anyway, that maybe damaged some of his, bone cartilage, and that ended Cam Neely's career. It's not the kind of thing you want to mess around with a 25-year-old kid.
Definitely.
So,
you're right. You know your stuff. This is the guy I always go to whenever I had some injuries in sports, arm injuries, leg injuries, ankle injuries. But, we're out at Castle Island in the water, icing my ankle when I heard it March of 2019. He knows this. That was a good remedy. My ankle actually ended up repairing quick.
Works great.
Some cold remedy.
And people laugh, but it works. And the ice water, the ocean water, you get pressure on it because it's sort of the deeper you are, the more pressure is down at the feet.
Definitely.
Anyway, so I don't want to give away all my secrets.
No, we won't give away too much. We'll keep that for next time, obviously. But I do agree with you about obviously Robert Williams being an X factor for the Celtics team. How do you feel about the Celtics tonight going up against the Sixers with Joel Embiid in the lineup, without obviously having Robert Williams out there too to protect the paint?
I think it's going to be tough. I think without Robert Williams, then
There we go. That's my fault. My phone. I don't know what happened there, but.
It's no worries. I think it's going to be tough. I think, I don't know enough about Malcolm Brogdon, and he's the addition in the offseason. And, is he going to be able to be the kind of guy that if they're able to shut down the Jays, Jalen and Jason, can he get his own shot?
Mm-hmm.
That's really the issue. Can you get your own shot? And I think that, oh my God, the guy that they traded for with the long hair and the bandana.
Derek White.
I mean, he was great when he was open from three, and he had some nice drives, but, under the playoff kind of defense, he seemed like he had trouble getting off his shot. And if Marcus wasn't on, then, you're all totally relying on Jason and Jalen.
You're right. He struggled, actually, in the last three finals games. Obviously, Grant Williams struggled, and Payne Pritchard struggled. We didn't really have much off the bench. So, obviously, getting Brogdon, having a guy off the bench like him, maybe could help this Celtics team. He did average around 20 points per game last season, so big addition for them.
Mean, they gave up first-round picks plus to get him. I think Daniel Tice is still on the back on the Celtics eventually.
He always does, right? There's always a way. When there's a will, there's a way. Daniel Tice is always on the Celtics. Every year he finds his way.
Rebounds his way back. Senator just scored a goal, 3-0.
3-0. That's tough.
They don't look like they're soft goals. I mean, the Bruins are sort of getting skated around. They, a lot of tough chances.
Yeah.
He made a nice stop on a breakaway with before nothing. I mean, there's people standing around in the corner while the guy's in the slot. Nobody bothered.
You're right.
Well, they're in Ottawa. They're playing a back-to-back. I think they probably thought this was going to be a tough game, although I don't think it's lack of effort. But, I mean, when you have Marchand and McAvoy, they're two of your top players and probably two of the top, 30, 40, 50 players.
Oh, Marchand's up there, absolutely. And McAvoy's one of the best defensemen, yeah.
And you're losing two of your top, 3 players, 5 players, whatever. Mm-hmm. I think they're just holding on until they come back and hope they can be healthy. I mean, I think if it all depends. The new head coach seems to me
Montgomery
not so rigid about you got to go into the corner and check. I mean, that's not DeBrusque's game. His game is speed. He had a nice goal yesterday, breaking away from the defenseman at the blue line, and set up the goal for Bergeron.
Yeah, no, he played well yesterday. DeBrusque played well. It was his birthday too.
You got to use the speed. It's like, we didn't want Tyler Seguin because he didn't check. No, he only scores 40 goals. That's what he does. He doesn't check. He doesn't fight. He scores 40 goals.
He does.
I mean, they almost ran Pasternak out of town but they didn't want him going in the corners. But he goes in the corners. He's been a great back checker because he's so fast.
And his slap shot's good enough. You want him on the ice at all times because of that. Kick it you from anywhere.
Of course. Exactly.
He can rip from anywhere. I mean, the Bruins... They've been scoring goals with random guys, but they have 12 goal scorers and 16 goals this year. 3-0, obviously heading into now Ottawa being Ottawa's 0-2, so maybe they took them lightly, being 3-0, and Ottawa being 0-2. Now you find yourself down 3-0. But
that game, I mean, they're done last night at 10:30. I don't know what time they're on a plane. I don't know what time they get into Ottawa, and I don't know how much sleep they got. I mean, I think it's a tough recover.
It is.
Last night's game wasn't a gentle game. It was a really sluggish.
Physical game, 5-3 win. Obviously, it went down to the wire at the end. Obviously, it wasn't like the Bruins were up 5-0. Could take it easy the whole game. I mean, you're right. It was physical game, hitting into the boards and all that, and you get right in a plane and then probably end up in Ottawa at, I don't know what time you go to bed, 2, 3 a.m., whatever it is, and who knows if you're lucky.
Just, even if you're taking, the monster drinks or whatever else they give them, it's still not on your normal resting. You still can't. You're not in your normal, sleep schedule.
Yeah, you're not getting your sleep. You're not getting your rest, obviously, and you're getting right in a plane too. So you're really just showering, getting right in a plane, and maybe they took them lightly, being 0-2. That just happens sometimes, especially in sports. I mean, sometimes you just take the opponent lightly.
I think it's not easy to have your best effort every game. I mean, especially when you have these back-to-backs. I mean, so anyway,
Definitely.
First part of the show, did you talk about Daniel Jones?
I did not, so I saved that for you. I saved the Patriots, Zappe versus Mac Jones, and Daniel Jones talk all for you. So I talked about a lot about the NBA, Celtics and Sixers. I talked about the Warriors-Lakers game tonight, and then I also talked about the ALCS, the NLCS, previewed those things, talked about the Yankees-Guardians.
At the end of that, yeah.
Talked about all that, talked about Northeastern versus BC Hockey Night. I did not mention Bailey Zappe. I mentioned very briefly, but it wasn't really a talk. I was just mentioning at the beginning of the episode. So we'll start with Bailey Zappe versus Mac Jones, and we'll get into Daniel Jones. Okay. Bailey Zappe versus Mac Jones, who do you favor? Because it's a legit controversy now, I guess.
I don't understand why there's a controversy. I mean, it's not about where they were drafted, and it's not really about what they did in college, because Zappe scored through 62 touchdown passes and 6,000 yards. Yeah, Western Kentucky.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's no disrespect, but I mean, the teams that he's beaten, it's like I said, who besides Grady Jarrett could make BC High's football varsity roster? I mean, Cleveland just looks terrible to me. I'll tell you, if you look at what happened to the Packers in London, I think that they're vastly overrated. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe Rodgers is a great quarterback when he has some line protection and when he has some offensive weapons, but he doesn't seem to have much of either.
Doesn't.
So I don't know. He seems just disgruntled on top of it. None of those things seem good
Yeah.
with that. And then, they shut out the Lions. Well, I mean, I know the Lions were a high-scoring team, and I give the defense a lot of credit, but, I mean, they're the Lions. In the power rankings, I think they're 30 and the Cleveland's 29. I mean,
Yeah, they're both bad teams. But hey, the winning games, you want to win the games, I know what you mean.
you got to win the games you're supposed to win. That's 100% true. And I also think what they asked of Bailey was much less than what they asked of Mac Jones. They wanted Mac Jones to do a lot of deep balls when he didn't have protection. Mm-hmm. Part of the reason he's hurt. And I think he didn't have Kendrick Bourne playing. You know what I mean? I think that's a big difference.
It is.
I think Ramondre Stevenson is a whole lot of difference in the backfield because he can break loose. I mean, Damon Harris is a great back. I like Damon Harris, but he's not as good at catching the ball out of the backfield. He's not as much of a threat.
Definitely. No, I'm with you there. I think Ramondre Stevenson's won himself some touches even when Harris gets back. I know they were splitting a little bit, but he's going to get the bell cow maybe now.
100%. I think, they don't have a third down back, but I think he can be an every down back. And if you need this split time to keep him fresh, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, the best teams rotate in, like, defensive players and the running backs and whatever. But,
yeah.
So Bailey, I admire the fact that he got a great arm, makes the good throws. He got a little rattled when he got sacked on the game, the first game on Sunday.
Yeah.
He got rattled. He threw like 3 balls airborne.
He did. He did. They started blitzing a little bit, though, and trying to mix up the looks. Try to get his head a little bit, and that works. I mean, especially a rookie quarterback.
Well, especially, Mac Jones has won a national championship at Alabama. He plays Georgia. He plays LSU. He plays teams that have serious, offenses and serious defenses. So he's seen a lot more than Bailey has. I don't know that ultimately is he going to be better than Mac Jones? I don't know. I mean, I don't think anybody knows. He clearly looks smaller to me.
He does. I think one thing you look at as the opponents he's playing against, like you said, you just mentioned that great. The Detroit Lions have a horrible defense. The Browns have a good defense, even when they're all healthy. And if you look at it, Zappe's been able to play very comfortable. The Patriots have never trailed in either start, so he's not like he has to play from behind. You've seen him always up 14-0. The running game gets things going. Then obviously, last week he threw more. 309 passing yards with 2 touchdowns against the Browns, 118.4 passer rating, 70% completion percentage. But in those first 2 games, the Lions and the Packers, he didn't have to throw the ball as much. Threw 100 yards in both games. Now in this game, obviously threw.
Throws to Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry could have taken a shower and then gone into the end zone. I mean, how much time did he have? Right? Same. It's that's because the breakdown is so bad. You know what I mean?
Right.
The defense was so bad. But
you're right. The sports comedian. You come up with jokes.
You only play the teams you're playing. I mean, and this is the thing about back to Daniel Jones and Ryan Daboll. I mean, they get better as the game goes on. I mean, they were a little loose and, a little trying to figure things out, but they really are. They really compete. I give them a lot of credit for their compete.
Definitely. I just saw a stat today. The Giants outscored Mike Vrabel, so they outscored the Titans, Matt LaFleur of the Packers, and John Harbaugh of the Ravens by a score of 55-19 after halftime.
Just made my point. I didn't even know that stat, and I still think
55-19. They trailed in all of those games in the second half. So you look at what Daniel Jones did. Had 4 comeback wins now. He leads the NFL now in game-winning drives. 4 of them now and 6 wins. Or 5 wins, it is. 5-1 the Giants are. Maybe we'll win this week. Who knows? Against your boy Trevor Lawrence. They're going against Jacksonville this week.
He's my boy.
We liked him, though. We liked him in college.
Oh, but he's throwing to the great receivers with the great offensive line. I mean, half that team ended up being drafted in the first 3 rounds.
They did. You're not wrong about that. We did like him. He has a hose of an arm.
The kid's very athletic. He can run. I mean, if he bulked up a little bit, Josh Allen is just fearless, which I hope doesn't come back to bite him because he doesn't take a knee. He doesn't go out of bounds. He goes headlong into these guys. Look, I know you're bigger and stronger than most of the little DBs, but you're going to hit a safety like Minka Fitzpatrick or somebody who's just exception to that and try to hurt you. There's a time to fight and there's a time to go back and
definitely. That's the problem, though. In today's day, quarterbacks love to run. Daniel Jones loves to run. It can get you hurt, obviously, too. But Jones looked great, though, with his legs. He's been running a ton, Daniel Jones, that is. And I think the Giants are starting to hit their stride. 5-1. They do have the Jacksonville Jaguars this weekend. Jacksonville's favored.
Jacksonville's favored over
By
the
3.5, I think it is. 3 points, yeah.
Pick up the truck on that one, Joe.
I know. They're favored in Jacksonville. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But the Giants, though, which
The Giants are going to bury them in Jacksonville, I think, because they got a much better defense. They have a much better defense, for God's sake. I mean, and it's not like they're playing. Jacksonville's not an offensive juggernaut anyway. If you can't score, the worst you can do is tie. And I think the Giants are going to do better than 0 points. So
you're right. And I saw one stat today. Let me see if I can find it really quick, because it relates to what we were talking about last year. J.C. Jackson, the offseason, the big question mark was whether the Patriots are going to bring him back or not. I know we were talking about how much money he got. We both thought he got overpaid. And I saw a stat today. J.C. Jackson has a passer rating allowed of 110.8 on the season as a primary defender. When you look at what he did in New England, though, in 2018, 27.3, 2019, 26.7, 2020, 41.9, 2021, 32.6, and 2022, 110.8. We talked about him being overpaid in the offseason. Look at it.
Oh, my gosh. That's the kind of thing that gets you fired as a GM. Although the salary cap is not really that much of an issue. It expands every year. So
every year.
So
every year.
Yeah. What's his name? Making $45 million, right? Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson's making that. Yeah, they gave him a huge deal. Look what he's doing. Oh, they get 3 first-round picks.
Well, this is the thing. I think you can bet Seattle to win the Super Bowl in 2026 when they get all those picks come to fruition. Or Detroit's got like 8 first-round picks in the next 3
They do.
years.
The Broncos gave up 3 first-rounders, 2 second-rounders, a couple starters. I mean, that was a great trade for that Seattle team. And your boy Geno Smith, our boy Geno.
Geno's fine. But I mean, I don't think Russell Wilson at 33 was worth anything. I don't know what made them think that they were that close, that they were a quarterback away. I don't think if you got Rodgers or Brady, that you were that close. So I don't understand the thought process.
Yeah, it's odd.
Fall in love with the idea Russell Wilson's going to be the guy or whatever, and now he's got a torn lat, which is going to take months to heal. Probably won't. Season getting hit, so I don't know. Are you going to miss your other call, Joe? I feel bad about that.
No, you're good. I can stay on. There's no one coming in, so I can stay on actually until like 8:15 if I want. There's no worries. There's no one coming in. I last week I was here one day just recording something, and I waited to see if anyone would come in, and no one did. So I think I could stay on, probably for another 15 minutes. Probably. We'll see. I keep going. But one last thing I want to mention, though, we used to talk about this a lot. Obviously, the Red Sox playing well last year. You called in during the ALCS. Whether or not the Red Sox are going to bring back Xander Bogaerts and Rafael Devers, what are your thoughts on that? Obviously, Devers is coming back one more year. Bogaerts is going to opt out in the next week or 2 weeks.
I honestly think that they're going to let Bogaerts walk, and I think they're going to try to convince you that they can go with a bridge year, and they're going to have all these young kids. And it's not just Bogaerts that's going to walk. You're going to lose Evaldi. You're going to lose a couple of Walker. Like your best starter is walking. Walker's walking.
You're right.
Someone's going to pay him. And someone's going to pay Evaldi more than you're going to pay him. And so then what are you going to do? Look, I admire Bayo. The kid showed me a lot. He improved, over the last half of the season. Last 5 starts, he was very good. And I think if that was the case, when you finished last, I think you probably should have found out more of what you had. I mean, Tristan Casas came up the last month. If he was your first baseman of the future, why was Bobby Dahl back there?
Yeah, you're right. Missing balls, couldn't field or hit.
I mean, I feel bad for the kid. I mean, I think he'd be a great park league player, but
he did struggle. Dahlbeck did struggle, especially at the plate, and obviously fielding was struggling both ways. I think the Red Sox obviously didn't do him any justice, making him a first baseman. He's really a third baseman in the minor leagues, and obviously ends up becoming a first baseman for the Red Sox since they really didn't have many options. And third base, first base, very similar positions, so it wasn't like they were making him learn how to play center field, but at the end of the day, that Red Sox team did him no justice by trying to figure out a way to get him to be a first baseman, which I might have lost connection with him here. Let's see if we can call him back here. Just to get him off, we have 1 minute, so just to let him sign off and give one more take maybe. Hopefully we can try to get him on for 1 more minute here. Let me see if I can get him. Call him right now to see. Did have some technical difficulties there, though, obviously, which we've had a lot tonight. Hopefully I can figure that out for next week. I do apologize to you guys for that. I know you guys are coming on to listen and hear me talk sports, and 5 minutes of it was, me trying to figure out a way to get all this to work. So, no big deal, though, at the end of the day. Hopefully next week I do have things prepared for you guys, so it's a little bit easier. Let's see what we got here. I'm going to call him back right now. There he is. Locked and loaded. There he is.
My phone died. I really want to talk about this. I want to know what you think about both.
No worries. No worries at all. I know your phone died. I was just saying, right as your phone died, I was saying Bobby Dahlbeck was put in a bad position by the Red Sox, making him play first base every day when he's hit 200, couldn't field.
And he's a third baseman. Okay, well, your third baseman is set. Okay, and they talk about, well, you're going to move Devis to first. Devis isn't really a first baseman. I don't think he's going to be a great scooper.
No, I think he's a better third. If he's going to put him at third or DH. That's your only options.
You're losing JD. I mean, you're losing your right-handed power. I mean, JD had a great season. So do you bring him back at short money? I think it's really hard to find people who love to play in Boston and succeed. Bruins scored 3-1.
3-1 Bergeron, right, baby? There we go. Live update. There we go. We love it.
Anyway, but I think if you let Bogarts walk, I don't know how you justify selling tickets or hot dogs or beers. I mean, I'm sorry. I just don't understand it. The face of the franchise, 2 World Series, came up as a double-A kid and was a star in the World Series. And then has been the face of the franchise, a model citizen, and you're going to let him walk. And you can't tell me you don't have enough money when you fill up the old ball yard every year. Even with a lousy team, last place team, they still had, I don't know how many, did they get to 2 million? I don't know if they did.
I'm not sure, but I did see one stat that you're going to be a fan of, well, maybe not a fan of. The Red Sox are the most expensive game experience for an individual fan to go with the family. They're the most expensive ballpark in the major leagues for food, tickets.
Family of 4, they're the most expensive.
Yes.
Right. So, and I think that, the interest in baseball is they need really to do everything they can to keep baseball alive. If you want to go to an event, you can go to a NASCAR, you can go to soccer, a lot of things you can go to. But if you really want to love the game, you have to understand the game and, maybe have played it or watched somebody play it at some point in your life.
Right.
That's getting lost, in this generation. The generation that, is watching 8 different fantasy teams at one time. And you're rooting while you're rooting against another. I mean, you're
rooting for Stephon Diggs to go for 30 points in one, but then you're rooting against him and the other to have less than 20.
Right, and you want your quarterback to throw for 300 yards, but he's throwing to the receiver that's against you. So it's like, what are you going to do?
And you have the other team's defense or whatever, so you got to make sure he doesn't give up as many. You need to throw a pick, maybe. I don't know. It's very confusing, obviously, with all that in fantasy. But you made a good point, though. The Red Sox are the most expensive ballpark for a family of 4. Obviously, they don't care about the ticket sales. I saw they were talking last week. Sam Kennedy said that they expect ticket prices to go up by 1 to 2%. And we were the last place finish in the AL East for the 5th time in the last 11 years. We're number 1 in the AL East in the last place finishes in the last 11 years. Number 1.
It's hard to justify. I mean, Sam Kennedy does a great job of getting on TV and smiling. I don't know what exactly else he does. But God bless him, he does a great job getting on TV and smiling.
Tries to get everyone fired up. You come on, you bring some jokes, a sports comedian. I love it.
Well, he has to take the bullet. Because you don't see John Henry's not going to step out there and say, we're going to raise ticket prices. No, he's not going to do that.
He wasn't there. 3 years now, he hasn't been live in front of the media. Him and Tom Werner, have not been in front of the media in 3 years.
After Ortiz leaves and you go through COVID, I mean, you don't have much to show.
Trade Mookie Betts, they never show their face after that.
I liken it to when the Red Sox traded Nomar, and John Henry said that Theo Epstein must be the loneliest man in New England, to trade such an icon, and the idea is that he got back Gold Glove first base and Gold Glove shortstop that made the difference, won a World Series.
You're right.
Now, did Nomar go on and have a great rest of the career? I don't even know. I didn't know. Wasn't able to follow.
We won the World Series, though, yeah.
Right, and that was, I feel bad that Nomar wasn't part of that, but where they were going wasn't going to get them there. They needed steadier defense at shortstop and definitely better defense at first. And this is the thing that boggles my mind. Kaz is a great defender, supposedly. Okay, I'll give you that. Let's say he is. But he batted $191.
He did.
5 home runs. What is his batting average when there are RBIs to be had? I don't know the stats, but that's what I look at. How do you do when there are runners on base? If you strike out, in a leadoff situation, it's, the way it is. But if you strike out with bases loaded, 1 out, you got to get a ball in the air, and that's a big difference. Those are runs that count. Everyone counts.
That's important. You need to be a clutch hitter. I think that's a big part of the game of baseball. I know when I would always be up at the plate with runners on base, my dad always said you want a productive out. If you're going to make an out, productive out. Sacrifice fly, move the runners up, whatever you got to do. I know Cub, the same thing, obviously, as well. You always want a productive outs. Dead outs, striking out doesn't help. Hitting 191 doesn't help either, obviously. But we'll see what happens there. As for Bogaerts and Devers, though, it's tough. I think Devers, you have to re-sign. I think Bogaerts, you should re-sign too. I think Bogaerts walks, though, and I think Devers comes back.
And the two of them. Say you get him, like, what did the shortstop in Minnesota sign for? 3 years, 105?
3 years, 105, Correa. Now he's going to opt out.
So say you could get him 3 years at 120, all right? And say you get Bogaerts, you get Devers. He's probably, I heard he already turned down 10 for 20.
He did.
10 for 200 million, something like that.
We lowballed him and Devers. 10 for 200, 10 for 250 or something.
You know, if you're the Oakland A's and you want to sell Moneyball books, that's fine. But if you're not, you really can't lowball people and think that it's going to work. I mean, we lowballed Lester. Lester was the Red Sox for life, and you lowballed him, and he won a World Series with the Cubs. That tells you what a valuable piece he was. And even after he won the World Series, they let him walk.
You want a Cespedes back in return, though. Hey, we got Cespedes.
Yeah, he got traded. Who did we trade him for? He was lousy for us.
1 year, that was it.
But he wasn't good. He wasn't good. He didn't even hit 20 home runs, I don't think.
He didn't. No, we got rid of him.
They had to hit 40 for somebody else. Who did we trade him for?
We traded him somewhere else. We didn't want him, though. We wanted him out.
Yeah, but we traded him for somebody. I can't remember.
We wanted him out, though, after, just that one season. I mean, we thought he was going to come in and hit 35 home runs in that, half season.
Well, I think a lot of guys can't play in Boston. There's always a media guy, buddying up to you, and then, you make a casual comment, and it ends up in the paper the next day.
Adrian Gonzalez.
Oh, yeah, exactly. He was like a clubhouse lawyer. He wanted everybody on his side. Turns out that he was the biggest base clogger ever in history. He ran about a 6'4" to first base. Great hitter.
Poor guy.
But he he just couldn't run. So, I mean, he would have led the world in doubles, for God's sake, the way he hit the ball.
Off the green monster, go Oppo.
Oh, he was fun to watch for a year. But, I mean, they got infatuated and they go and sign Crawford. Well, I mean, throwing money, good money after bad isn't the way to go. The right answer is, building a team, drafting them and developing them. I haven't seen much coming up from Worcester.
You're right. We don't have much talent. And we traded away some pieces. Obviously, we got some pieces back in the past. But yeah, we don't really have much of a farm system right now in AAA. Maybe single A, double A, because that's what a lot of the guys we've traded for.
That's what they say. The double A guys are where the talent is. Well, I mean, that's swell, but they're, a year, 2 years away. We had a bunch jump from double A. Like Bogaerts was one. Benintendi jumped from double A.
You're right.
Mookie played a week in AAA. We saw him at second base. I saw him in Pawtucket. That's right. He's season ticket holder for the Paw Sox, 20 years, and then they moved.
I know. I remember that. You saw him. You saw all of them.
My kids played catch with Pedroia and Ellsbury at the kids' clinic. I mean, how great was that?
I know. Hey, that's all legends on the field right there. And they'd be better than Ellsbury out there right now.
Hey, I'm telling you. Well, that's the other thing. I mean, I saw the kid from Pawtucket in center field. It's like, give me a glove. I mean, I called Christopher. I said, do you believe this? He said, we were all laughing watching this.
Jared Duran.
It's so sad. And the other kid, it was so sad. Well, I mean, they put him in a loser situation.
They do. Jaron Duran's not a center fielder. He should be a right fielder at best, maybe left. Putting him out at center.
But a lot of, left field is in Fenway Park, and left field is everywhere.
No, they do center field with that triangle. He should have been in right field, Jaron Duran. If you're going to put him in the field, put him in right field. But you know what they said? Cora and Bloom both said, we're trying to let him learn the position, learn the surroundings of the outfield the whole season. We're just letting him learn center field. Well, let him learn center fields. They're in batting practice.
On-the-job training. Yeah, exactly. Why isn't in center field at BP and shagging everything? I mean, that's the way I can remember when which left fielder? I think it was Tony Amos or Mike Green, any of the left fielders that followed after Yastrzemski. You heard about them fielding balls off the wall day after day after day because it's very hard. I mean, I've stood there, on the field. The wall behind you is so intimidating.
You're right. Hey, we got Hanley Ramirez in left field after that too.
Yeah. That just goes to show you it doesn't matter. You can put anybody out there, and that's. I don't understand the mentality because when it comes to big games against good teams, the ball always finds the weakest link. That's just the way it is.
That's the way sports goes, right? That's the way you do it. You go against the weakest cornerback. You throw against him always.
Weakest cornerback, weakest defenseman on the hockey team. You're gonna isolate the guy that can't defend. I mean, look at Grant Williams. He had a phenomenal series against Giannis. And, then he didn't play as well against Golden State. He didn't have the same kind of guy to guard. You know what I mean?
You're right.
I'm looking forward to see. Oh, they're on actually.
They're on right now. They actually have a 23-8 run against that Sixers team. The score is 29-23 though, so not too far behind. Did give a 23-8 run at one point though, unfortunately.
Well,
which happens. That's sports.
They're just not going to be. It's opening night and whatever. I mean, Plus they're going to figure out. They knew who they were under Ime. I don't know if they know who they're going to be under the new coach. I wouldn't know if I ran him over. I don't know what he even looks like.
He's an assistant coach. He never really got any airtime until a week or two ago now.
Well, I mean, I wish him the best. He's got a lot of talent. I mean, I give the Bruins coach a lot of credit because he's sort of letting them be who they are, and I think that's important.
Definitely.
If you're not a mucker in the corner, then we shouldn't have you doing that. We're better off having you, skate your wing, whatever you need to do.
Definitely.
So, anyway.
We'll see how that goes. But hey, I love you coming on, talking some Red Sox, talking some Bruins, Celtics, Patriots. You touched them all four.
And we got Daniel Jones.
And we got Daniel Jones in there. He's been playing great, which I'll obviously have you on board to talk about him another time. But Daniel Jones is playing great this year. He's been poised in the pocket, flushing out of the pocket at the right time, getting rid at the right time.
If they don't win by at least 10, I'll be shocked.
I know. I think we should win. I think probably 31-21 if I had to predict now. 10 points. I think probably like that.
I don't think Jacksonville's going to put out 21 points against the defense. We'll see.
We'll see. Hey, I'm looking forward to it. Hey, thank you so much for coming on, though. I appreciate it. Always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.
Nice to see you.
Have a good night. Take it easy. Bye-bye. A pleasure having him come on. Thank you so much, Uncle Frankie, for coming on and talking some sports. I said he can talk everything sports, just like the sports guru Mike Hurley, the sports legend Mark Walsh. Now we got the sports comedian, my Uncle Frankie, coming on, talking everything sports. And as always, a pleasure talking to him. He knows everything sports. As I said, he just broke down every single thing he had to, one thing to the next. Bruins, Celtics, Patriots, Red Sox. One thing to update you guys on right now, AIC is down 4-0 against Holy Cross right now, so tough start to the game for AIC, being down 4-0 in the second period. Northeastern obviously got that Aiden McDonough power play, then gave up a Trevor Kunta power play goal, and then gave up a goal to Kobe Ambrosio in the second period. So right now it is 2-1 BC with 9 minutes to go in the second period. So good to have Mark Walsh come on right now, talk some sports really quick, and then obviously that'll probably be the closing to the show. Thank you guys so much, as always, for listening. Going to get Mark Walsh on now. Thank you guys. There he is, my boy, the sports legend, Mark Walsh. How are you doing, bro? Good seeing you.
I'm doing great. It's great to see you, too. I'm happy you have me back on.
Back on another week, 2 weeks in a row now. Talking everything, which I talked everything tonight. Whatever you want to start with. Bailey Zappe versus Mac Jones. The Northeastern team is down 2-1 right now, unfortunately. Celtics down in the first quarter. Bruins are down 3-1. But hey, look at the Patriots winning 2 straight games. We can talk anything you want. It's up to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll get started with the Patriots because you mentioned Zappe and Mac Jones, and I heard something. There was a clip on the radio, I think, today, and they asked, is Zappe versus Mac Jones a quarterback debate? And I think the right answer is almost. I think it's almost there, but there's nothing yet where you can definitively say, okay, this is why you should take one over the other. Mm-hmm. I think Mac had a harder schedule at the beginning of the year, struggle with turnovers, all those things. And then Zappe came in, and like I mentioned a few weeks earlier, I feel like it's that part of the year where the Patriots have weaker opponents. They win some games, and people start to overreact and say they're great. I think that's where we are right now, and I don't know if that overreaction applies to Zappe or if he is genuinely a good quarterback, and he should stay at the starter. So I think we still have to see it play out, but I think it's almost a legitimate debate.
Hey, I take your word for it because I know you watch every Patriots game. You're very locked in. But one thing I think you got to look at with it is that Mac Jones, obviously in this new offensive system, they might have been asking him to do too much. That's what my uncle just said before this. I think I agree with him there. Bailey Zappe, they know he's a third string. Might have made it a little bit easier on him. Obviously, expectations-wise, he's looked very comfortable. I mean, a lot of the play calls have been a lot of shorter routes. He does have a good arm, but I saw today on 98.5, the Sports Hub, Greg Bedard was on with Felger and Maz. He was saying they're using the 2 tight ends a little more now, too. Blocking-wise and also going for passes, too. Maybe making a little bit shorter for him on throws, giving him a little bit more options to throw to when he's looked comfortable. I mean, 309 passing outs, 2 touchdowns against the Browns. Hasn't trailed in either game. I think that's one thing you got to factor in, too, is that Mac Jones, for the most part, they're trailing in a lot of those games. They're 1-2 with Mac Jones at the helm. Now 2-0 with Bailey Zappe starting. But one thing I think you got to look at really is pressure on Mac Jones, a lot going into this year with a new offensive system, Joe Judge and Matt Patricia calling plays. That's tough. Obviously, losing some pieces in the offseason, too. Not the easiest thing to go into. Losing Josh McDaniels is a big loss. I think he's a great quarterbacks coach and offensive coordinator. He does great at what he does. And obviously now, hopefully the Raiders find their stride. I had them being a lot better this season. But I think it is a controversy. I do. I know you're saying it's almost. I would agree that. I see either way. Because Phil Graham saying today, obviously both of them are one way or the other. Greg Bedard is saying he's still all in on Mac Jones, thinks that Bailey Zappe is still really a backup. I would agree, though, either way. I think you could see it either way, and I don't think you could disregard someone for saying one or the other.
Yeah, I agree. I think too, obviously there's the debate. Mac Jones is the first-round pick, the starting quarterback, the guy that they obviously invested in. But I think, and then obviously you say Bailey Zappe's and experience, this and that, but I think that debate goes out the window when you look at who our head coach is. I mean, look how Brady got the starting job over 20 years ago now.
You're right.
You know?
You're right. And that started a legacy. I mean, who knows? You never know.
By no means am I saying Bailey Zappe is Tom Brady. I'm just saying the way Bill Belichick head coaches his football team, I mean, he will make the decisions where he thinks it's best for the team, and he doesn't care what anyone else has to say about this.
I mean, he's a great coach. You got 7 wins out of Cam Newton at quarterback. I mean, that's impressive on its own. You got 7-9 with Cam Newton as your starter. That's impressive.
Yeah, I agree.
With Bailey Zappe, now you're 2-0. And one thing with Zappe, 4 touchdowns and 1 pick, 73% completion percentage, completing a lot of passes, 111 passer rating, 596 passing yards. So in those first 2 games, didn't really have to throw too much. Obviously, this last game,
I agree. Yep,
309 yards. But Mac Jones, 2 touchdowns and 5 picks, 786 passing yards and 3 starts, 76.2 passer rating and 1-2 record. I'm not all into stats saying everything. I think Daniel Jones is a lot better than the stats show. But I mean, if you look at it from a stats perspective, then you're looking at it the way they look on the field. I think honestly, Zappe as of now has the edge in both of those. I think he looks a little bit better, a little bit more comfortable. But as I said, I think that is an indictment on the Patriots and what they expected out of Mac Jones this year. I think they expected too much out of him in this new system. And I think at the end of the day, I don't think it's an indictment against Mac having met Patricia and Joe Judge's play callers. I think Bailey Zappe's going into a system where he can be comfortable since he didn't expect to even play this season. Now he's playing and the Patriots' expectations were very low with a third-string guy, So, I mean, it's a legit controversy, obviously. But how do you feel, though, going into this now matchup, Monday Night Football? Do you think Mac gets a start or do you think Zappe gets a start?
If Mac's healthy, I think he gets the start. If he's almost healthy, but he's not 100% there yet, then I think you defer to Zappe, and I don't think you put Mac out there if he's not 100% ready. What I will say is I agree with your analysis as well. I think the first 2 games that Zappe was in, obviously he came in beginning of the game in Green Bay and then against Detroit. I think they didn't put as much pressure on him. I think the game was managed very well. And the run game was working. I don't know what exactly Belichick saw with Cleveland, but he said, we're going to let this kid off the leash a little bit. And I just remember watching and saying, wow, he looks decisive. He looks like he's doing the right thing with the ball, making reads, stepping up in the pocket. And I think those are all reasons why you can make a valid case that there's almost a quarterback controversy in New England.
Definitely. I think they were missing Denzel Ward, so their CB1 missing him obviously opens up the defense a little bit, gives a little bit of a few holes. And I think at the end of the day, one thing about Zappe looks comfortable. I think Mac Jones did not look comfortable in any of the 3 games he played. And as I said, I felt bad for Mac. He didn't really have much help in those first 3 games. Offensive line was brutal in a few of those games. He was getting killed. Mac was getting crushed in a couple of those games. Crushed.
Yep.
He was getting crushed. So I think at the end of the day, I think expectations were lower for Zappe, so I think that's why right now people are doing that. Maybe Zappe's a starter. I think as of now, if I'm still picking, I think it's a controversy. I think it's a legit thing. But if both guys are 100% healthy, I'm going with Mac Jones. He led you to the playoffs last year. I think you got to stay with him. But I'm not going to tell anyone they're wrong if they want to stay with Zappe. I think at the end of the day, Zappe's won you 2 games. He wins on Monday Night Football. He's going to win you 3 straight games. You might not be able to switch at that point. I mean, it's really hard, but it's never a bad thing. I know me and you have talked about this about Northeastern hockey. It is never a bad thing to have depth and backups that you have confidence in. And knowing Zappe is a guy that you could start, just like you could start with Jimmy Garoppolo and Jacoby Brissett when Brady was out. In Northeastern hockey, you have Riley Hughes on the 3rd line that would be in second lines on most college hockey teams. It's a good thing to have depth and confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And speaking of Northeastern hockey, really quick, tied it up 2-2, goal from Matt DeMellis. Michael Outzen and Matt Chupani tied it up in the second period with about 10 minutes to go. So huge for Northeastern. Obviously tonight, not being the best start for them, being down 2-1, now tying it up 2-2. But I know me and you have liked what we've seen out of them in the first few games, very early in the season. I don't want to jump ship now from the Patriots to Northeastern hockey. I just want to mention that really quick, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think Zappe, though, which Mike Hurley, sports guru Mike Hurley's out giving his opinion here, He said Zappe has better pocket awareness and better vision, which I would agree with. I think he looks more comfortable out there. I would agree with that right now.
Mm-hmm.
And he leaped.
Small sample size.
He leaped from struggling in the preseason to a dog by week 6. I think, honestly, as I said, that could play a role with expectations being low. And then also, which my uncle made a very good point, he didn't go up against great defenses in the Browns or the Lions. Neither one.
Yep, 100%.
I think Mac Jones is getting crushed. I mean, the Dolphins have a pretty good defense. I felt bad for Mac after a couple of those plays, which I didn't have the highest expectations for Mac coming into the season because I thought new system, Matt Patricia, Joe Judge, obviously the receivers, they don't really have a wide receiver one. And I told you this last week, and we both agreed. A wide receiver one makes a huge difference for a quarterback. Look at Joe Burrow. First year, no Jamar Chase, was not putting up the crazy numbers, obviously towards ACL too, but gets Jamar Chase, goes to the Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers with Devontae Adams, different quarterback. Kyler Murray with Marquise Brown looks a lot better this year than he did at the end of last season without Marquise Brown. And DeAndre Hopkins, obviously, too, helped him. They traded for him. A few examples. Lamar Jackson, you give him a wide receiver one, Lamar Jackson will be putting up even better numbers. Wide receiver ones make a huge difference. Look at Tom Brady. His last season at Gillette Stadium for the Patriots did not have a wide receiver one. You go to Tampa Bay and you have Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. That's a huge difference. Russell Wilson throwing to DK Metcalf. Huge difference. And now you're throwing their wide receiver one's Jerry Jeudy. He's not DK Metcalf in my eyes.
Yep.
It makes a huge difference having wide receiver one. I thought Mac Jones does not have that. He does not have Josh McDaniels there to help him. And I think if you look at it, it's tough to jump into the system Mac Jones did this year, especially not playing in the preseason. It's brutal, except game 3, whatever it was. That's another thing you got to factor in. Zappe played in all 3 preseason games.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's also true. I think it's kind of like if we're going to look at it as, is the backup going to take over for the starter? I think I almost want to look at like the Cooper Rush situation where everyone was saying he's undefeated as a starter. Is there a debate? And Jerry Jones was kind of flirting with the idea of I'd love to have like a controversy. And I think Cooper Rush was, perfect undefeated as a starter. I mean, obviously not perfect as a quarterback, but undefeated starter, you can't really ask for much more. And then obviously taken down by Philadelphia, and now I don't think there's a debate whatsoever. So I think, all it really takes is kind of one bad game, and I don't think Belichick's going to, not ride, not go back to Mac Jones.
I think Mike Herbert had another great point here, which he's watching the Bruins. Krejci did just score, made a 3-2 game, so great for the Bruins there.
Oh, love it.
He said Zappe dealt with Myles Garrett turnstiling Isaiah Wynn all game, which wasn't wrong. Stepping up in the pocket and throwing 300 passing yards, that is. Best pass rush in their face is Myles Garrett. That's true. But I think the system, the Dolphins were sending, guys from the outside, so blitzing from the outside of Mac Jones. So that new system, obviously it's very different. It's the Shanahan system, which I don't really know if the Patriots really needed that. I thought they could have kept the McDaniel system. But obviously Mike did make a great point. They go against Myles Garrett. But that secondary is weaker than what Mac Jones was going against in that Dolphin system with Navy and Howard in that secondary. So a little bit different. And he said if you're the starter, you should be playing at 80% health over any clear-cut backup. Which I would agree with if it wasn't an ankle injury, though, because you got to step and throw. That's one thing. It's tough.
No, that's true. I completely agree. Like, if you're looking at where you have a clear backup quarterback situation compared to the starter, if that guy's at 80% health, like, you're going to be starting, like, Lamar over, Huntley. I mean, Huntley played well in the games that he came in last year, but another comparison, like, Mahomes, like, you're not going to be starting anybody at 100% over Mahomes at 80,
Yeah.
But right now, I feel like Zappe's performed well enough that this kind of injury, like you said, if Mac Jones is at 80% and, the trainers or whoever makes those calls, like Belichick said,
trainers will probably make it say he's healthy enough.
Say, he's 80%, but we're not sure. I think you hand the ball to Zappe for one more game. See how he does.
It's against the Bears, too. I mean, it's a primetime matchup, obviously, so the Monday Night Football lights could be tough for a rookie quarterback, but Zappe looked very poised in the pocket, and Mike Herbert made a good point. He had better pocket awareness. And obviously, and one thing Mike Herbert just said, Bruins just tied up A.J. Greer, third goal in 4 games. Wow.
That is unbelievable. That kid has been an absolute stud.
3-3. I know you're a big Bruins guy, too.
I was watching early, and I was like, oh, man, is it going to be one of those games? Ottawa's on 3 days rest. Bruins played last night and flew to Ottawa today. But
they did fly today. Me and my uncle were just talking about that. We said, do you think they flied last night or flew today? I thought they would have flown last night since that's what baseball teams typically do. A lot of baseball teams do that when they leave the stadium. The baseball teams play, 7 o'clock the next night, just like the Bruins would. But the Bruins got out late last night, too. So I don't know. I thought they'd be like the MLB where you just go straight from the stadium. But if they left today, though, that actually helps the Bruins. Obviously, 2 goals in a minute, 2 seconds now. Tied it up 3-3. Obviously, the Bruins looking better now. One thing I want to get your opinion on is the Celtics. They're up. It's tied 35-35 right now in the second quarter. What are your expectations for them this season? Obviously, new coach, Mazzulla in as the interim head coach instead of Ime Udoka. What do you got for expectations of the Celtics this year? Do they get back?
I think...
Which is a tough question. If you want to just say you think they're going to have a good year and be a 4 seed or 3 seed, that's fine too. You don't got to answer if they're going to make it back to the NBA Finals.
I mean, I think they'll have a good regular season. I'm hoping that they'll at least have another Eastern Conference Finals berth. I can't guarantee. I'm not going to say, hey, they're going to the NBA Finals and call that shot now. I think they are one of the top teams, one of the top 2 in the East. What I will say is I heard on SportsCenter today that Mazzulla, I didn't know too much about him as a head coach. I know he's kind of been, an assistant in the NBA. His only head coaching experience, if I'm not mistaken, was like Division II basketball for 2 years.
Yeah.
And that's not too encouraging, I will say. But, obviously him being part of Udoka's staff last year, kind of immersed in that like NBA culture and the Celtics culture, which is more important because I think they need to carry that over and hopefully can perform like they did last year, at least in the playoffs. And
definitely.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see ultimately how it shakes out. I don't want to have sky-high expectations and get disappointed, but I do have faith in this team, and I honestly think they might get back to the finals. I mean, that Warriors team is no joke. We'll see what happens between the road from now to the NBA Finals, but I like the Celtics this year. I think they are a great defensive team, which is the most, underappreciated part of the NBA, in my opinion. I mean, everyone wants to look at these prolific scorers like, Giannis and...
Giannis Antetokounmpo, Steph Curry, Luka Doncic, yeah.
When you can step up on both ends and do what Tatum did to KD last year in the playoffs, I mean, that will take your team to the next level, and that's what the Celtics proved last year.
Definitely, and you made a great point. You said you don't have crazy expectations for them. I think at the end of the day, when you have lower expectations, or at least you're being underestimated, like the Giants have been, now we're 5-1. You look at what the Bruins are doing right now without McAvoy, Marchand, and Grzelcyk. They're 3-0, could be 4-0 if they win tonight. When you have lower expectations, look at the Patriots, Zappe. Lower expectations, you have that guy in, or you're being underestimated in all 4 of those situations, and you're winning games. I think it's better to be an underdog. Maybe this will help the Celtics. It could help the Celtics at the end of the day, being an underdog and being underestimated now. Obviously, who knows? I mean, you got to play the season like you said. The road to the NBA Finals is a long season, 82 regular season games, and you got to win 3 series and then win 4 games in the NBA Finals too. So you got to win 4 series basically to win the NBA Finals. It's a long road to go, 82 games, but if they were to win tonight, or lose tonight, it's not the end of the world. I know tomorrow people will be on Boston Sports Radio saying the season's over if you're 0-1, just like every single year that happens when the Red Sox start out cold, which they weren't wrong this year. The season was over, I guess. We struggled out of the gate. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, I think lower expectations for the Bruins have helped, and being underestimated for the Bruins have helped, just like it's helped the Giants, just like it's helped Bailey Zappe, could help the Patriots too. The Celtics as well. It could. It could help that. And one last thing I wanted to mention to you was the NLCS, ALCS. You got the Houston Astros playing the Yankees tomorrow in Houston. You got the Phillies and the Padres tonight in just about, or it already started at 8:03, I believe it was. Let me see if I can check that score here. 0-0, bottom of the first inning. Guy on first base after one Soto walk. So the Phillies already gave a base around the bottom of the first. Who do you like in this series between the Phillies and the Padres?
So I like the Phillies. I think they're on this kind of Cinderella run, and not that both teams are, because 5 and 6 seeds going to the NLCS is basically unheard of. But I think Bryce Harper is one of the best players in the MLB. He has been for a while, and he's absolutely on fire right now. He batted 500 in the NLDS, I think it was.
Yeah, no, he was on a tear. It's
just insane. And Schwarber was second in the league in home runs this year. You got a lot of other guys who are getting hot at the right time.
Number 1 in the NL in home runs, and then number 1 in number 1 in the NL. You're right. Number 1 in the American, number 1 in the National League, number 2 overall. Good stat there. I like it.
Yeah, and I think, obviously that kind of deep ball ability, and the Phillies showed that, game after game against Atlanta, and Atlanta's pitching was no joke, and they Strider, they did very well against.
Max Fried. They hit a lot of these guys. They hit a lot of them, and you're right. It's a big reason in doing that was Bryce Harper. 3 home runs, 6 RBIs, 10 hits and 23 at-bats, 3 doubles, a .435 batting average, and a .1437 OPS in the postseason this year. He's been on a tear. That's a great point. And you could start with him, and then you could talk about Brandon Marsh having a great postseason. You could talk about Nick Castellanos. His batting average really in the regular season wasn't great. Made some clutch plays in that Braves series. I think at the end of the day, I think this Phillies team has a mojo to them that just is going to keep riding. I think they win in 6. That's my prediction. How do you feel if you were putting a number on it? 7, 6?
I like Phillies in 6. I mean, Phillies at 5-6. It depends on the way the series goes. I mean, I do think it's going to be a good series. I think both teams fought really hard to be here. It's not like they just kind of got the pass to the NLDS and then had to win that series at 5. Both teams played in the wild card. Both teams finished and it fought to get into the postseason. And here they are now, and they're 4 wins away each from a World Series appearance, which is absolutely insane to think about. That San Diego dethroned the 111-win Dodgers, and the Phillies going through Atlanta to be here as well.
Beating St. Louis. I mean, they were underdogs in both of those series. And the Padres were too. The Padres were underdogs against the Mets, and then also underdogs against the Dodgers, obviously, as well. Honestly, both teams I respect for what they went through. I was rooting against the Padres in all 3 rounds because I like the Mets, because I like Scherzer, DeGrom.
I agree.
I like the Dodgers, obviously, which you know about. I think they're the most well-run team in all of sports, considering they have 7 top 100 prospects, and then they spend the most money in the major leagues, and they're not afraid to make a big move for a superstar like Trey Turner, Max Scherzer. Obviously, Trevor Bauer didn't work out, but they're not afraid to make a big move. I think the most well-run team in all of sports. That's why I respect them. That's why I like them. And then you look at it, now they're facing the Phillies. My grandfather's a Phillies fan, so I like them. I will be rooting for the Phillies in this series. I know you like the Phillies as well. So we're rooting for the Phillies, and I think they could go on a magical run and keep this going. As for the Houston Astros and the Yankees series, I think I said the Astros in 7, just based off gut reaction. They were 5-2 against the Yankees in the regular season, I believe, is what I said earlier. How do you feel about that series?
I like the Astros there, and I watched the Yankees game today almost in its entirety, from about like the 2nd inning on. Mm-hmm. That was after Stanton hit the 3-run homer in the first.
Yeah, tough for our Northeastern boy, but it's okay. I mean, that's great for the program. I texted you this. I said, even if he had a bad game, pitching in a Game 5, winner take all, do or die, win or go home. That is huge for the Northeastern program to say, hey, we had a kid drafted in the 3rd round, 2016. 5 years later, made his way all the way up to the majors. I think he made his debut in 2021. And now is pitching in Game 5 of the ALDS to go to the ALCS. Very impressive. And even though he didn't pitch great, it's still very good for the program. He did strike out Aaron Judge, too. At least he can take that home with him, too. But as you were saying, though, you saw the 2nd inning and on, and what'd you see?
I saw one of the biggest things that stood out to me, and I guess this doesn't really have too many playoff implications, but when Judge ended up going deep, when he rounded home plate, he kissed the Yankee symbol, and then when he made his way through the dugout, he did it again on his jersey. He lifted it up to his lips and, made sure to show his love for the franchise. I don't know how much you can really read into that, knowing that, he's a impending free agency and everything like that, and he's going to get probably one of the biggest contracts, if not the biggest, that we've seen on the historic season that he's had.
Definitely.
I had a hunch, just as a Red Sox fan, trying to not get my hopes up, that he would stay in New York, even though I'd love to see him leave because we don't like the Yankees. But I do think the Astros overall are the better team. I mean, we'll see if Benintendi can come back for the Yankees. I think he'd be a great addition for them right now. The game I saw him play at Fenway this year with the Yankees, he had that diving catch. He also batted in the game-winning run. Or he was the game-winning run. I forget which one, but heartbreaking as a Red Sox fan.
Definitely.
Just him do that in the Yankees. Definitely. I take out 6. I like the Astros here. Maybe Astros in 7.
That's what mine is. I was Astros in 6 or 7. I went Astros in 7, and then I went with the Phillies in 6. So similar to you, both ways. I think at the end of the day, I like both teams to win, no matter if it's 6 or 7. I like both those teams.
I think just the way that the Astros battled, I mean, Yordan Alvarez with the walk-off in Game 1 against Seattle. That team had so much heart, and for them to, take that series in 3 games, and obviously they took the 3rd and was basically 2 games long with 18 innings. I think that team has fought really hard to be here. They'll be the home team in the ALCS, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. The Astros will be the home team, yes.
Yep. And obviously Yankees coming off no days of rest going into tomorrow. They just pitched nasty Nestor Cortez today.
You're right.
I think the Houston Astros will go to the World Series for the 4th time in 6 years, I think it will be.
Yes, yeah, they've made it a ton, obviously. 2019 ended up losing the World Series to the Nationals. 2020, they lost in the ALCS to the Rays, I believe, if I remember right. Then obviously last year losing to the Braves. this year having another opportunity to maybe make it again. There was a magical run for the Braves last year. I think the Phillies can make another magical run too. I will want the Phillies to win no matter who wins in any of these two series, any of these 4 teams. I like the Phillies the most. Obviously, my grandfather was a fan of them, and ever since I met them in like 2015, that was right around the time I became a fan of them. I was a big Ryan Howard guy, and they had a lot of guys back then, Darren Ruff and Odubel Herrera and Cesar Hernandez, and a ton of guys I was a fan of, and I met a lot of them. They were all nice guys. Jeff Francoeur. I was a fan of them since then, and I was kind of staying with them ever since, and now they're a really good team, and I know my grandfather will be psyched, so I'll be rooting for them, obviously, to do good things. But one last thing I want to mention to you was, let me see, DJ LeMahieu. So we're talking injuries. DJ LeMahieu might not be on the team for the Yankees for the ALCS. We were just talking about Benintendi maybe coming back. The Yankees obviously lost Michael King in the regular season. They lost him to an injury. The Yankees have some injuries. The Astros are kind of healthy for the most part at the right time. We'll see what happens. But you got the Astros in 7 and the Phillies in 6. That's what you got?
Yep.
I like it. I'm with you there. Any other takes you got? So we talked Zappe versus Jones. Obviously talked some Celtics. Talked some Bruins as well. The Bruins looking good now with it being 3-3. How do you like the way the Bruins have looked in the first 3 games, now this being the 4th?
I've loved it. I have a good feeling about this team. I like the fact that when they asked Coach Jim Montgomery about, what he's seen from the team so far and how he wants to evaluate them, he said, I want to wait for 63, 73, and 48 to be back on the ice, and then we can talk. And I think those are, some of the best players in the league, especially Marchand and McAvoy.
Definitely.
You talk a premier forward, a premier defenseman. Grizzlick is a great guy too. I'm hoping he can kind of have a bounce back season as well. But the way that this team has played so far, you got depth scoring, like a guy like Greer, who we mentioned earlier, has been doing unbelievable to start the year. Played for the junior Bruins, in his early hockey career, and I think that kind of, lit a spark under him when he got a chance to play for the actual Bruins. So much later. Another BU product as well.
He's looks great.
Yep, McAvoy and Grizz, like I mentioned, and I really have a good feeling right now, and I don't want to jinx it or anything like that. I love the way this team has looked. I like the new style of play that they've kind of had, and I know it's a small sample size. I hope they get Pasta locked up soon, but I think
they will. I think they will lock up Pasta. I don't know how you can't. I don't know how you can't lock up Pasta. Me and Michael were just talking. One of the best slap shots in the league. Put him anywhere, guys. He can score from anywhere.
Yep. I mean, you saw the goal he had last night. It was
ridiculous.
Insane going through, what was his name? Mark Stahl's legs.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. It was a great play. It was a great play. Me and Michael just said, you made a good point. You said Marchand and McAvoy, 2 of the best players in the league. Marchand's one of the best goal scorers, and McAvoy, both of those guys are top 40 players in the NHL. My uncle said top 30 to 40 players. I'd put them both in the top 40.
Yeah, completely.
McAvoy's one of the most sound defensemen in all of the NHL. So I
think McAvoy's, personally, I think he's a top 3 defenseman in the league. I mean, give or take. If you don't have him in your top 5, I think your top 5's wrong. But I
think it's disrespect if you don't.
Yep, I agree. And I don't think I'm biased when I say that. I mean, you look at all the stats, you look at the advanced metrics. He's been top 5 in Norris voting for the last 2-3 years now. And he's also one of the younger defensemen in the league, which is also another great thing. Marchand, you look at what he's done in season pass and everything like that. Just the production he's been able to have as a veteran and just the energy that he brings to the game. I mean, my dad always says he's the player who will drag everyone else into the fight. And
right.
I think you need a guy like that, especially when the playoffs roll around. I obviously want to make sure that both those guys, or all 3 of them actually, including Grizzlick, are completely healthy before they come back into the lineup. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a good debate to have is you look at this team now and you're wondering who's going to get edged out, who's the defenseman who's going to slot out when you get Grizzlick and
over the forward. I mean,
back, and a forward
too.
Well. Mm-hmm.
Marchand isn't playing well. Who's going to be kicked out of that line? Because the Bruins have 12 different goal scorers now.
Yeah,
it's nuts. Everyone's scoring.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, and to have that kind of secondary scoring this early into the season, you just hope and pray that it keeps up and they can continue to ride the wave. And I think it's very interesting. Craig Smith was a healthy scratch tonight.
Yeah, I saw that.
Because he was a very, very solid guy for us 2 years ago, and last year he was good.
He scored some goals. He scored some goals last year. He went on a little bit of a run. Him and Halla or whatever went on runs, both of them. Scoring.
Yeah, and I mean, Smith was great. I think this is the last year of his contract. There were rumors that we might trade him, but how the rumors can only get you so far. I mean,
definitely. That's the end of the day. NHL, not as many trades, too, in other sports. The rumors might actually be legit in the NHL since there's not many trades that happen in the NHL. So a rumor could actually be true, I guess. But I had one last thing I want to mention to you, which I was talking to your dad about. Obviously, Bruins have 2 goalies. Allmark started game one. Swayman and Allmark keep switching out now who starts. Who do you give the edge to if you had to pick? Who should be the one? Or do you not have a preference right now? You're waiting to see.
So I feel like they're both so good. You just got to ride the hot hand. If you asked me before the season, I would have said Swayman should be starting game one. If you asked me today, I think if we somehow just in the playoffs and you had to pick who's your game one starter tomorrow, which obviously isn't how it works, but I think you go with Allmark. I think it's one of those things where you just got to kind of ride the hot hand. And it's nice that you have a guy who, no matter who you put in, you got a great backup. Like we had the same conversation with the Mac Jones and Bailey Zappe debate. It's good when you have both, great goalies who the team can be comfortable playing in front of no matter what. And yeah, I think that's a great thing for this team that a lot of people haven't really paid too much attention to. Just, after you lose Rask, there was like that huge question of who's going to be the next guy.
Who's the next franchise goalie? I mean, I give Rask credit, too, for coming back, even though, he wasn't the same. Trying to come back from that hip injury, that was honestly credit to him for even trying because, obviously went through a ton of rehabbing, a ton of conditioning, trying to get back on the ice. Obviously didn't work out, but I give guys credit for trying to get back. And I rate hustle and how much guys, try or whatever when they're on the ice and on the field and on the court. I give a lot of credit to that, even if the player's not the best player. If a guy tries, I give him respect. Obviously, Rask gets his respect in, so how good he was. But I give respect for obviously trying, and then maybe he showed the ropes to Swayman and stuff. Even though he wasn't playing, maybe he gave them some tips or whatever. Maybe he was in the locker room with them, telling them what to do. And he was a great leader. So losing him was a big loss on the ice, obviously, as a franchise goalie, and then also leadership-wise, too, since he was the Bruins goalie since we won the Cup, right? Wasn't that his first year?
One of his first years, I think it might have been his second, and he was going to be the starter that year and ended up backing up Tim Thomas, who had that unbelievable run.
Thomas went on a run. Yeah, Thomas went on a run, but actually now we're down 4-3, unfortunately.
But I think, that's a bummer.
Shane Pinto goal. What can you do? Gotcha. Still a long game. Second period, 8:03 to go.
Yep, and hopefully the Bees can bounce back. But like you said, that kind of mentorship from veterans in the locker room is something I feel like is so understated. You saw, McAvoy and his kind of friendship on and off the ice with Chara, and I think he attributed a lot of his growth as a player in his early playing days to, the kind of mentorship that he got from Chara. And, obviously being his D partner for like the first few years of his career, once he kind of got things going, he had that, post for Chara when he announced his retirement and signed the 1 day with the Bruins. We have a lot of veterans on this team who are able to kind of pass on knowledge to the young guys. Bergeron has always been that kind of presence, it feels like.
Bergeron, Krejci now, too, back. Krejci's a great leader.
He's been great so far this year. Just the things that he does with the puck on the ice, the way he sees the game, he's such a great hockey mind. He
still looks like he's crisp out there, too. He still looks like he's crisp.
Absolutely.
I thought he was looking a little older.
That even if he played in Europe last year, he played, which is the big thing. And even if, coming back to the NHL is an adjustment, multi-point night in his first game back, so what more can you ask for,
Yeah, no, we could have used him last year, honestly. I know obviously him and Cassidy maybe had their differences, but we honestly could have used him last year probably. And not even probably, we could have used him last year.
I agree completely.
So anyways, I'll let you go back and watch a Bruins game, but hey, any other points you want to make? Any other hot takes? Anything? You want to mention? Because we talked about baseball, so you have anything there? You can mention anything you want. I always let you have one more last take in case you have one. There's no rush, obviously. You don't have one, it's all good.
I honestly think I covered everything for the most part.
Zappe versus Mac Jones. That might be the biggest hot take. I like what you said, though. You obviously got to ride the hot hit. If Zappe were to win on Monday night, it might be tough to take Mac out of that starting spot or putting Mac from the bench to the starting spot over Zappe is what I mean. But you made a good point, though. Best point you made about Zappe was that, at the end of the day, even if he does start, he doesn't, there was at least a controversy to be made. It's at least a discussion. I'm with you. That's a great point.
I completely agree. And I don't think the controversy's over. This is my last point, actually. I don't think the controversy's over if Mac Jones gets healthy this week and he gets to start against Chicago. I think he had 5 interceptions in his first 2 starts.
2 touchdowns, 5 picks.
And that's not something Belichick's going to want to see. So even if Mac Jones gets back to QB1, he's on a tighter leash than he has been for the first year and some change in his career. I think Zappe's made it a question of, is Mac Jones the undeniable starter, or if he continues to make mistakes, are we going to put another guy in?
You're right, and Zappe's looks very crisp. That's another thing. It's tough to take a guy out and looking crisp when the team's winning 2-0. They were trailed in a game, whether or not it's just because of Zappe or the whole team's playing well, which I think it's kind of both. The team's playing well, Zappe's playing well. Obviously, the defense is playing very well, and you have easier opponents, at least, with the Browns and the Lions. I think if the ball keeps rolling, I think it makes it harder to take Zappe out of that starting spot, but I think Mac Jones, he made you guys go to the playoffs last year as a rookie. First-round pick, which I know you guys didn't trade up for. It's not like you guys traded up like Trey Lance to get Trey Lance like the Niners did, and you gave up all that draft capital to get him, or Russell Wilson, the Bronx traded all that draft capital. You're never going to really play a backup over any of those two guys, just like Dak Prescott. Even with how good Cooper Rush was playing, you're not going to play Cooper Rush over Dak Prescott because of how much money he's making. I think this is different than with Mac Jones. You got him at the 15th pick in the first round, but you didn't have to trade up to get him. So if you want to just play Zappe over him at the end of the day and you think he's better, you don't really owe as much to Zappe, owe as much to Mac Jones as you do with Zappe. I mean, both of them very similar quarterbacks, I guess, the way they both play. Obviously, Zappe's a little smaller. It looks like Mac's a bigger kid. I do think at the end of the day, it's going to be tough to take Zappe out of position if he's 3-0 and he wins on Monday night if he starts. I think that's the best way to put it.
Yep, I think if he has another great showing, it's really going to be a question. And it doesn't matter to Belichick, like you said, if we pick him 15th overall, if Zappe's playing well, he's going to ride the hot hand.
Well, look at what the Patriots did in the Super Bowl. I know as he didn't work out, benching Malcolm Butler, and then also having Eric Rowe and Alshon Jeffrey. But Belichick doesn't care about who you are, how much money you're making, where you were drafted. If he doesn't like what you're doing out there, whether it's attitude-wise like Malcolm Butler or whatever, or what he was doing the night before the Super Bowl, or it's if a guy's not performing well and he's a first-round pick, it doesn't matter. Taking it right out. Besides, maybe N'Keal Harry was the only one that maybe got too long of a leash, which maybe was just because he doesn't really have much at receiver. Zappe's playing well enough when Mac Jones can come out. I guess the Patriots didn't really have much at receiver, so Harry had to play when he was healthy or whenever he was on the field. I think at the end of the day, you look at it, I think if Zappe continues to play well, it's going to be hard to take Mac out. But I think if I had to choose right now, I'm staying with Mac Jones. Got you guys to the playoffs last year, but I would not be surprised if Zappe were to stay at the starting position.
Yep, I completely agree.
But hey, anything else you want to add in? I love these takes, though.
Yeah, I think I'm good. I appreciate you having me on again.
Hey, thank you so much for coming on, Mark. Mark Walsh. Check out his music, Mark Walsh Music. He has 3 songs up on Spotify. Thinking 2, his latest single, out on Spotify, came out in June, I believe. Add in a couple more songs, Time Zone, a song with Fat Hosey. Another guy you should check out, Fat Hosey. And then also Reappear, his first song, his debut single, also out on Spotify. That came out around the pandemic, right? March 2020, sometime around then, or sometime in 2020 that came out. So check that out, guys. 3 songs there to check out. I'll repeat them one more time. Reappear, Time Zone, Thinking 2. He has new music coming out hopefully soon. I go at this kid every single day telling him to put out new music. Hopefully he does soon. But he's the best around with music. He's best with sports takes as well. So thank you so much for coming on, Mark. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Have a good night, bro. Take it easy. Thank you. Thanks, my guy. Yeah. Great to have him come on. Mark Walsh, the sports legend, obviously a sports comedian, my uncle coming on as well. Thank you guys both so much for coming on tonight. I'm going to give you guys a quick rundown of all the scores, and then I'm going to dip out. I do have an intramural flag football game at 9:15, so got to dip out, unfortunately. Just to reiterate, the Yankees beat the Guardians 5-1 in the ALDS Game 5 matchup today. Win or go home. The Yankees end up winning. They'll be playing tomorrow against the Houston Astros. It'll be Jamison Tyone on the mound for that Yankees team against Justin Verlander. Tyone has only pitched 1 game now in the postseason. Didn't even record an out in that game. Let me see what his final stats were, which I had them written down here, but probably take me time to find it. Let me see what he did. So he pitched in a game once already in the postseason. It was not a great game for him. He pitched on Friday, picked up the loss for that Yankees team, did not record an out in that inning, giving up 3 hits, 2 earned runs with no strikeouts and no walks, 18 pitches in that game. He will be on the mound tomorrow for that Yankees team against Justin Verlander, playing the Houston Astros at 7:37 in that opener for that ALCS Game 1. Tonight, Phillies and Padres already playing in Game 1 of the NLCS, that is. The first time the Phillies have made the NLCS since 2011, I believe I said. Let me make sure there. Yeah, 2010, that is. First time the Phillies have made the NLCS since 2010. First time the Padres since 1998. It is 0-0 in the top of the 3rd inning. On the mound for the Padres is Yu Darvish. He has already gone 2 innings, giving up no hits, no runs, 2 strikeouts to a walk. As the Phillies, Zach Wheeler's on the mound, 2 innings on the mound, no hits allowed, 3 strikeouts to 1 walk. So each pitcher has allowed no hits, giving up a walk apiece in 2 innings. As for the Celtics, they are playing their opener tonight against the Philadelphia 76ers. At half, it is 63-63. The 76ers have been getting a lot of help on the offensive end from James Harden. 22 points in the first half with 4 assists and 3 rebounds. Harden playing very well from the floor, 5 of 9 shooting with 4 of 7 shooting from 3 and 8 of 8 shooting from the free throw line. Tobias Harris, their 4th scoring option, 14 points, 2 rebounds. Tyrese Maxey, starting point guard, 9 points, 2 assists, 4 of 6 shooting from the field, 1 of 2 from 3. Superstar, potential MVP for this year, which I'm going to give my NBA predictions tomorrow at some point. Joel Embiid, 16 minutes on the floor, 11 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, a block, and 3 of 7 shooting from the floor. As for the Celtics, 20 minutes from Jason Tatum, 16 points, 4 rebounds, a block, and an assist, with a turnover and 5 of 9 shooting, with 1 of 4 shooting from 3 and 5 of 7 shooting from the free throw line. One thing Tatum's got to get better at is shooting from the free throw line. 5 of 7 shooting from the free throw line. He's got to be drilling free throws. These are free throws. Come on, Tatum. Jaylen Brown, 18 minutes on the floor, 18 points. He did have 5 straight shots, actually scored at 1 point. So 5 straight shots he's made at 1 point at the end of the first half. 1 assist, 1 rebound, 1 block, 2 turnovers. So one thing they both got to limit is turnovers between Tatum and Brown. 1 of 6 shooting from the 3-point line for Brown. 7 of 14 shooting from the floor. As for Brogdon, 10 scoring for him, 10 points scoring with 1 rebound, 2 assists, 5 of 7 shooting from the floor, and a +2 plus-minus ratio. Al Horford has a +6 plus-minus ratio, best on the Celtics team. Blake Griffin has added 1 point, 4 rebounds, and 1 assist in 5 minutes of action. Grant Williams, 5 points of action off the bench in 8 minutes of action, so 5 points in 8 minutes of action. And then Al Horford, 3 points, 3 rebounds, and an assist. The Bruins are now down 6-4, which I mentioned. They were down 4-3. As for the Bruins, they added another goal. Nick Foligno scored when the Bruins were down 6-3, making it a 6-4 game with 2 minutes to go in the second period. So they still got the whole third period to go. As for Northeastern University and BC hockey tonight in a Hockey East showdown on a Tuesday night at Matthews Arena. Very rare Tuesday night showdown in the Hockey East. 2-2 right now. Northeastern tied it up off a goal from Matt DeMellis with an assist from Matt Chupani and Braden Doyle in the second period. As for Holy Cross and AIC hockey finds himself down 5-2 at the Springfield Civic Center in Springfield, Massachusetts. They are down 5-2 to Holy Cross. Holy Cross is 0-4 in the year. As for AIC, 2-1-2. AIC did get a goal from superstar scorer Blake Bennett, had a power play goal to make it a 4-1 game in the second period. Hopefully they turn it up in the second period, or in the third period. There's only third period to go, 14 minutes to go for them. Both of those teams will be returning to action. Northeastern will be returning to action on Saturday, playing UMass Lowell. And then AIC actually has some time off. BC will be playing Sunday, October 23rd at home. Their season, or second game at home, actually. They played Colgate. Oh, no, Colgate. They did not play Quinnipiac. They played at home the first game of the year, losing that game 4-0. BC will be playing UNH on Sunday at home at 1 o'clock. AIC will be hosting Lindenwood, a new team, 2 Division I hockey. Lindenwood, they will be hosting on Sunday at home in Springfield at 3:05. Anyways, thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen to this. As always, I appreciate it. Shout out to Mark Walsh and my uncle. Both of you guys, thank you guys so much for coming on. As to everyone that listened, all of my family, shout out to Dan and Phil, 2 guys that are New York Mets and New York Giants fans. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen to this. As always, thank you to the Keefe family, the Loftus family. Thank you guys, as always, for taking the time to listen. It means a lot to me. It means the world to me, you guys listening in. The Sports Guru, Easy E, thank you guys for listening in. Thank you guys for your takes. I know Easy E is a big Sixers fan, so Sixers 63-63 at half. I do have the Celtics winning by 1 or 2, but I would not be surprised if the Sixers were to go on a run in the second half. James Harden gets hot. He's tough to stop if he gets hot. He didn't really much in the playoffs for them last year, but if he gets hot, he's tough to stop. At the end of the day, I will be rooting for the Phillies. So I know we can side on that. Hopefully the Phillies win in 6 games over the Padres. Rooting for them to do well tonight. And thank you guys, everyone else for listening. Whoever else is listening, thank you guys. It means the world to me. I appreciate it heavily. Thank you guys to my whole family, my siblings, my mom, my dad. Thank you guys as always. My uncle, my cousins as well. Frankie John, thank you so much for listening in. I know he helped out with some of the technical difficulties we had. Thank you guys as always. I appreciate it. Hope you guys have a good one. I will be back on again tomorrow night for the Playbook with Joey and Zach from 8 to 9 p.m. here on WZBC AM Sports Radio. Have a good one. Enjoy the rest of you guys' nights. Thank you.